Welcome to Ben and Curt Till It Hurts. I'm Ben.
And I'm Curt.
And, I know we said we were going to try to keep these under an hour. I know we made that promise. I have been vocal about trying to keep it under an hour. Gotta say, don't think we're going to do it again this week. I think,
it's hard, man.
It's hard.
I went into this like, man, my shows are always like 2 hours long. I don't even like listening to them. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do it. And then every week we're just like...
Last week was like an hour 40 monstrosity. But, I think it's going to happen again this week. Maybe I'm wrong.
Probably.
I don't have privileged information, but...
Give us feedback. Or maybe no one even listens to it, and then it doesn't matter.
If you're listening and you've got opinions about how long the show is, give us feedback. You know where to find us.
Don't tell us to make it like 6 hours long, because we probably will.
Yeah, if we get permission from one person to do that, we'll start making the show exclusively for them, 6 hours every 2 weeks.
So anyway, we are back today for, what is it, part 2?
Part
2, right?
2 of the Tarantino. This is the third episode of the podcast, part 2 of the Tarantino arc, right?
Yep,
the Tarantino chapter of the podcast is second part today. We're going to get to the middle arena, the middle chapter of Tarantino's career, his Kill Bill and his Death Proof, which are good movies to watch together. They're the only two movies that start with that special, now our feature presentation song, right? I think, unless another one does that I just don't know about.
I don't know. It's been a while.
But
so yeah, that's what I kind of noticed about these two as well, after we had broken them up into parts. These are, I have it like part 1 I have in my notes is Tarantino's crime world. And this I have is his movie world. He has said that Kill Bill doesn't take place in the same universe as his other movies. It's like a movie that the people in his universe would watch.
Who knows how literal we're meant to take that? Tarantino might have been speaking metaphorically, or connections between.
I'm not really good at stuff like that. I'm he said it, man. It's gospel now. So
add it to the ledger.
Yeah, make it the notes, and then Death Proof is kind of a weird, because it's a homage to Grindhouse films.
Yeah.
So
we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah.
Anyway, what have you been up to, Curtis? We'll start with our check-ins. What have you been up to?
Record Store Day was a couple weeks ago. We didn't talk about that, right? The last time we did it, Record Store Day was coming up, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. So I did that. It was okay.
Yeah.
I have actually bought, I think since the last episode, because of Record Store Day and some shopping on my own part, I think I've bought 10 or 8 or so. I've bought some vinyl.
Oh, man.
So, Record Store Day was cool. I got some records. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Pieces of plastic, some bumps on them.
Yeah.
Ridges,
So,
tracks.
I've been getting super into that lately. I'll probably, I don't know, I kind of want to I thought about doing some black gold YouTube videos. I don't even really know yet.
We were kicking that idea around. You kind of proposed the idea of all right, we do a YouTube show where we bring our not to spoil any upcoming
no
projects.
We're still workshopping.
Kurt's face was just falling.
No,
ruining the element of surprise. Got to keep them on the edge of their seats.
Violently.
Yeah. He just muted my microphone. Just calmly reached over the
no,
computer.
I think same thing. What do you think, guys?
You think that would be cool? We'll probably do it either way, because I've been thinking about it. At first I was like, yeah, that could be cool, but now I've been thinking what 5 pieces of vinyl would I bring to that show?
Yeah.
It's hell yeah, I've got 5 pieces of vinyl that I'd like to show off a little bit.
I'm just super jazzed about my own stuff, and that kind of just yeah, I don't even care if people watch it. I just want to do this. I want to talk to me about my own stuff.
Any excuse to touch my things is a good excuse.
So that might be happening.
That's upcoming. It's in the works.
No, we're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it.
We'll do it next week.
It'll be up next Thursday.
But that's about it for me. I've just been buying a lot of vinyl. Yeah. So you'll probably see what it is in a few weeks. What about you, though?
I have been playing a video game.
Ooh.
It's a video game that's been getting a lot of buzz in these video gamer circles among all the murder simulators, right?
Okay.
It's a video game called Nier Automata.
I have not heard of this.
Have you heard of this?
Tell me.
Came out on PS4, I think, and the personal computer. I'm playing it on Windows. And it's kind of... Did you ever... like back in the day, back in like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era, did you ever play any of them Japanese RPGs?
No.
No?
I was more sucked into the Nintendo era.
Yeah. So even on Super Nintendo, you've got your like Chrono Triggers and your Secrets of Mana and your Finals Fantasy and so on and so forth.
As an adult, I have gone back and played them a little bit, but actually, the only one that I really liked when I was a kid was Breath of Fire 2. But
That's a good one.
Is that what that is? Does that count?
Yeah, that's one of the ones that's not remembered as much, but people who do remember it are like, yeah, that's cool. So yeah, Nier Automata is like a modern. I don't even want to say it's a retelling. It's interesting that I've been playing it and I'm talking about it on the episode that we're talking about Kill Bill, because it's a little bit Kill Bill-ish. It's a loving homage to all the tropes of old Japanese RPGs. And the thing that I love about it, I'll give you the premise first, all right?
Okay.
It's 3,000 years in the future. Aliens have taken over the Earth using robots that they control remotely.
That sounds plausible.
Yep.
I'm still on board.
Just bullshit.
No.
Yeah.
That sounds all right.
Yeah, it's good. And the remaining humans have fled to the moon and have sent down androids of their own to fight the alien robots on the surface of the Earth. So it's already insane.
So there are no humans or aliens on Earth.
There are no humans or aliens on Earth. They're fighting a proxy war on
They
Earth.
just have a robot war.
Yeah, each of them have different robots. And you play as one of the androids that fights for the humans, right? So your job is basically just go down to the surface of the Earth from the orbiting satellite, right? And just fight robots all the time. So that's what you do. It's kind of a character action game. It's an open world as well. But the thing that I like about this game is that it starts with that premise and then just keeps on surprising you, right? It changes genres sometimes. Like, so it starts out as a top-down shooter, like Space Invaders.
Okay.
You're shooting, and then it changes into like it's different types of shooters, and then you're a person running around.
Oh,
and it's constantly switching between those. Sometimes you control it like a side-scroller. But yeah, it just keeps throwing new shit at you. New areas, new all kinds of stuff, new influences as well. Like, I didn't realize it for the first couple hours, but it's kind of like a Zelda game.
Oh, really?
Right? Like, you've got different areas with different themes that you go to. Each one has kind of a dungeon. Each one has a different kind of level design in it. It's a fantastic game. The writing's good, you know? It's as good as you would expect, like an homage to old Japanese RPGs, which didn't really have the best writing, if I'm being honest. I love it. I love the writing in those games. It's not good.
Yeah.
I just like it.
How far into it? How much have you played it?
I'm like a few hours in, and the other thing about it is that it kind of in keeping with those like PS2 era Japanese games, it's not that good.
Yeah.
Like the actual game part is sometimes frustratingly opaque, or like just frustrating in general, like frustratingly hard. Like a boss fight will feel fair but not fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes not even particularly fair. It's like, how was I supposed to avoid that? Or, you know, like, yeah, I know it starts me right at the beginning of the fight, but this fight sucks. Why do I want to do this? So yeah, the thing that I like most about it is that element of surprise. And again, similar to what I think we might talk a little bit about with Kill Bill, there's a sense of physicality and a sense of consistency to it that is respectable. You know, it's the way the skill system works, I feel like exemplifies this. So you're an android, right? Mm-hmm. So the way you get new skills is you have a set of chips that you can plug into yourself to give yourself new stuff. So like one of those skills might be like, oh, your weapons do 20% more damage. Or like every time you hit an enemy, there's a chance they're going to get shock damage added to it. Those are your usual kind of skills. But also, elements of the user interface are attached to this same system. So your health bar is a chip that you have to have plugged into this.
Oh, okay.
And you can take that chip out, and your health bar is just no longer displayed on the screen. You still gain and lose health the same ways. You just can't see.
You have no idea to know how.
You just have no idea to know how. And there's a certain limited number of points that you have to spend on these chips. So if you want extra like skills to use in combat, you can actually get rid of parts of your user interface
to
add new skills in.
Let me, just to clarify, so like, say you want to be able to do 20% more damage, you can opt to get rid of the visibility of your health meter to do that's a strange dynamic.
Just strange, I think, is the right word.
Yeah.
But then the cool thing that happened, like my personal experience with this, and I think it's the intended experience, is that you start with a bunch of stuff plugged into that just doesn't do anything, right? Like there's a chip that you have implanted, and it's like pretty expensive. It's like 3 points, and your big combat chips are between like 7 and 10. There's a 3-point chip in there that just displays a little icon on the screen whenever you can save.
Okay.
And like you can already see on the mini map, which is a chip itself. You can get rid of the mini map if you want, but you can see on the mini map if you're in an area where you can save. It's like it's colored differently. So
that's very interesting. The thing that is kind of strange to me is that makes me think, like, not that I know much about computers, but like when you first start to learn about computers and you're like, oh, I'll just like uninstall shit that I don't need, and you get a computer and it's stocked with all these stupid programs or whatever, you're like, I don't need Windows Movie Maker. That's dumb.
Right.
And you can opt to get rid of it and stuff. That's
exactly that feeling. Yeah. Dude, this game is good.
I might try it out. That sounds pretty fun. I probably won't try it out.
Yes.
I'll say that, and then I probably won't. But the only thing,
watch a YouTube video.
Yeah,
like
that's
give it a look.
I'll get a taste for it. My only thing with the reason I asked how long you're into it is that I feel like the older I get, with JRPGs, I just don't have 120 hours to like. So there have been some games that I've started and played and liked a lot, like Bravely Default, and then I get to like 85, 90 hours, and I'm just like, no, I'm just done. Like, I don't want to play this anymore. Like, it was fun, but I just don't care. Like,
so I guess this one, and this is by nature of it seems like the person, the like designer of the game, the director of it, a guy named Yoko Taro, who's been active in the game industry for like 15 years. This is the first time he's been given a big budget, apparently, but he didn't use that to like pad out the length of his game. I guess from what I've heard, it stays really fresh throughout the whole game, and it's not a particularly long game. Like, it's pretty long if you want to get and do everything. I guess there are 26 different endings, one for each letter of the alphabet.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All right.
And some of them are like little jokes, but a lot of them, I think apparently like 5 or 6 endings are like canonical and important to get the full story. You have to play through the whole game
my God.
5 times, but and again, this is kind of a spoiler, but I was spoiled about it and I'm still interested in the game. Once you beat the game, it takes like 15 hours. Then you play through it again, and you play through the same game as like a different character. Then you play through it again, totally different game. Like just different levels and shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm gonna watch some. You can stream it when you're playing on on Steam, and I'll just watch like a weirdo.
Real weird stuff coming out of Japan these days. Like good stuff. They're letting like people who would have to make a game like that in their basement, like Undertale. When Undertale came out, Undertale had a lot of the same themes. It was like, look, I love Japanese RPGs, but they're so death obsessed, right? It's all about killing all these monsters. What if I want to talk to the monsters? What might the monsters say back to me? It seems like Nier Automata is in that same vein, except that instead of it being one guy sitting in his like studio and making the game on his own over the course of 4 years, it's one visionary plus a whole team of people that Square Enix was like, yeah, we'll give you guys money to make that. Sure, we'll give you a ton of money. It's gonna look great.
Lots of money
to make this crazy fucking game that. It's been received really well. Came out like a month and a half ago. People have been loving it.
It's so weird that I haven't heard anything about it. Well, it's not, because I don't really follow video games as much as I could, but... Alright.
Yeah, anyway, that's Nier Automata. I'm going to keep playing it. And I think that's it for our things for this week. So let's jump right in. Let's get into this.
Yeah, alright. So, Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. What's your initial take on Kill Bill? Do you remember seeing Kill Bill? Do you remember how you felt about Kill Bill at the time it came out?
It's weird. I don't know if I remember. I don't know if I remember the first time I saw it. I know that I know where I was and who I watched it with, because it was. I remember that part of it, I guess, but I don't really remember much about the first time I watched. I know I liked it, and I think I said last week that I watched it before the second volume came out. So, but I liked it a lot instantly, and I think that was what got me into the rest of Tarantino stuff. I don't remember if I saw that or Pulp Fiction first, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, I was, like, I think I've mentioned, I had been watching, like, Pulp Fiction for a while. I was, 13 when Kill Bill came out, around that age, 2003 era. So I had seen Pulp Fiction, I'd seen Reservoir Dogs at that point, hadn't watched Jackie Brown. But I was, like, almost probably annoyingly obsessed with Quentin Tarantino by the time Kill Bill was coming out. So I was, like, looking forward to it. I was, like, really jazzed about it. Loved it at the time. Watched it over and over. Watched the first volume over and over again, waiting for the second volume to come out. Loved the second volume. Watched it a lot around that time. And then just never watched it again for probably 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So watching it for this podcast was the first time I've seen that movie in 10 years.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's been a while.
Yeah.
I feel like I watch it pretty frequently. I think I've almost watched... I mean, I don't want to say... I was going to say I've watched Pulp Fiction so many times that I can't really enjoy it anymore, but that's definitely not true. But I probably watch Kill Bill a lot more frequently than I watch Pulp Fiction. So I don't know why you would watch, why you'd be listening to this if you haven't seen Kill Bill, but it is a movie it's in two parts. They came out, like a year apart?
It's 6 months to a year. I've seen in my research, I saw conflicting
and they are very much two parts to the same movie. It's not like a sequel. It's the second chapter.
Yeah.
Or the last 4 chapters, I guess.
Yeah. 4 or 5 even?
I don't know.
I think House of Blue Leaves is chapter 5, and then it starts on chapter 6 in the second movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is all very, very granular information. It's important that we get it right on the record.
People have to know how smart we are.
Write into us to tell us how much you appreciate us getting all this shit right.
It's so dry, but I learned so much.
I feel like I just took a masterclass on being a fan of Kill Bill.
So how should we start this off?
How should we start? Well, I can say that I loved Kill Bill at the time, and it didn't stick with me. And having watched it again now, I love it even more. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's an incredible movie. Well, what would you say the premise of Kill Bill is? What do you think it's about? It's about? It's a revenge story.
It's a revenge story. That's what I.
Is that is that the long and short of it? Is that?
I mean, I guess that would be it. You have the bride, Uma Thurman, who is pregnant and almost assassinated.
Yep. They think they assassinate her.
Yep.
They try to assassinate her.
And
for reasons that become clear as the movie
goes
on.
Very typical of Tarantino. You kind of get like you get parts of the story out of order.
I'm like, oh, that's why that happened. Yeah. And then this scene is happening right before that other scene happened. So
which similar, I guess, to Pulp Fiction. I feel like I had to watch Kill Bill a few times before I could answer questions about why certain people did certain things.
I want to get into that because I think it's a revenge story, right? But he also writes it like it's and oh man, I'm going to make this comparison every episode, aren't I? He writes it like it's a Shakespearean play, right? The rhythm of the dialogue is incredible. The things that the characters are saying are so meaningful. They are there's never a conversation between two characters where probably pretty much every line is just imbued with meaning, whether it's meaning about who that character is, it's meaning about their relationship to some other character, or it's meaning about what that character is going to do in the future. It's all meaningful. Everything matters.
So how do you feel that the first part and the second part, how do you feel about the differences or...
I have that in my notes right there. It's the second piece.
Perfect.
That's the second most important thing I wanted to talk about. We'll get to number one in a little bit.
Okay.
I think because we watched them differently for our rewatch, right? Mm-hmm. You watched them separated by what, like a day?
Couple days.
Yeah. I watched them as one big 4-hour, 10-minute, whatever long movie.
That sounds awesome.
It's rad. It's the way to watch it. And we can. There is technically, so they were released theatrically as 2 movies with a year in between them. That's not how Tarantino would have chosen to show them, I don't think. Yeah. In fact, when it screened at Cannes, at the Cannes Film Festival, it was screened as one long movie that he had edited together. That cut currently has not been released officially. I think it's called not the whole gory story, but the whole bloody affair.
Yeah,
it's called Kill Bill,
I've heard
the whole
that,
bloody
actually,
affair.
yeah.
It's like legendary, right? People are like, have you seen it? I hear he's going to release it on DVD in a couple years.
It's going to come, I promise.
Come out. But I don't even remember where I was going with this, but having read some commentary about that edit, the whole bloody affair edit, doesn't sound like it's that different from just sitting down and watching them back to back, with a couple big exceptions. Big exception number 1 is that the big fight in the House of Blue Leaves is in color, the same way it is on the Japanese DVD. Big difference number 2, and this is a big difference, is that at the end of Volume 1, Bill does not say to Sophie that the baby is alive.
Oh, okay.
So in the whole bloody affair, the first time you find out that Beatrix Kiddo's baby is still alive is when she sees her at Bill's like villa. So that's a pretty big difference.
That is a big difference. It makes sense. I think if you're sitting through the whole thing, I can picture that being an important, thing something you don't need to have in it. But I think that is a fantastic cliffhanger to, if you were going to separate them and then put them out a year apart. That's a huge cliffhanger to leave on. Mm-hmm. Man. Now I'm one of those people that wants to see that. Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome. It's such a small difference, but and also at the beginning of the second volume, when she's driving the car and it's like a whole film noir kind of thing. Mm-hmm. A scene that I love, that summary of the first movie of all the background information. Apparently, that's not in it either.
Okay.
Another fun fact: in the original script, that scene was going to open the whole movie.
Oh, really?
That scene of her driving in the car. In sports car, the whole gory story, that incredible monologue that she has about everything that's happening.
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that, but I don't know if I would like that as much as the at the beginning they did use.
Now, I think that it was going to be that was going to be the first scene after the credits, maybe, because it starts with her saying, "Look dead, didn't I?" Yeah. But I wasn't. That whole bit, it was going to be, because the opening of the movie is so fucking strong.
Yeah.
The little speech that Bill gives that you have to kind of strain to hear what he's saying.
Yep.
And then the shot of her getting shot in the head is terrifying.
Yeah.
It is a brutal shot of just blood spray.
That is touches a point that I was going to make too, is that having seen all of his movies multiple times, I've only seen The Hateful Eight once. Kill Bill is, I think, the only one that still gets such a reaction out of me. It's so powerful. There's a lot of fucked up stuff in Pulp Fiction, but I've seen it over and over again, and there are the big scenes. There's the pawn shop scene and probably the Mia scene. Those are the two probably most stressful scenes in that film. But I'm jaded to it now, but I can still watch Kill Bill and still feel very affected by when she gets shot in the head. Mm-hmm. And
the fight against Gogo is brutal.
Yeah.
When she gets shot in the chest outside Bud's trailer is brutal.
Yeah.
A lot of fucked up shit happens to Uma Thurman on screen.
I think the two biggest ones for me are, strangely enough, when Pai Mei threatens to break her hand. That's a very visceral.
That's almost a sexual threat.
Yeah,
she is bent down in front of the camera. Pai Mei is just looming behind her. Yeah. It's really unsettlingly framed. There's a bondage, a BDSM thing going on in the background that I think we need to acknowledge, because somehow all the greatest artists of the 20th century are all using bondage imagery in their stuff. I don't know what's going on.
And it's working on me.
It's working on me. Have I shown you my swing?
Yeah. And I'm trying to. There's just a few of those moments where no matter how many times when she's getting, God damn, I'm trying to phrase the best moment, but when she's in the coffin and the dirt is dropping down on her, it's like I know
the sounds.
What happens, and every time it's like you think it's over, there's one more.
It's
like,
so scary,
and you just have this like. How's she going to get out of this? There's no way she's going to be able to survive this. What could possibly happen? There's no way out. And then you have this hour-long flashback that's like the greatest. And it just...
one of the best scenes in any Tarantino movie.
Oh my, it's incredible. And I still... I know what's going to happen, I still get chills when I watch it. Like even
when you see her practicing at the board the first time,
yeah.
and you're like, oh shit, this isn't just a random flashback. She's thinking about this in the coffin, subconsciously or consciously. She's returning to her training. She's going to use the 3-inch punch. What's the thing that Pai Mei says? He says, can you punch through the board like that? She says, I can, but not that close. And he says, what if your enemy is 3 inches in front of you?
Yeah.
Incredible. Like that's the moment that I get chills every time, because I'm like, yes, this is a time when her enemy is 3 inches in front of her. It's a coffin. She's been buried alive. I get so excited about this movie.
I do too. And I get I love that scene too. That's I don't know if it's the best order to talk about it, but that is probably one of my most favorite.
We're so far out of order on this shit already.
One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, segments anyway. And seeing her, come up through, it's like a very drawn out training montage, and seeing her punch the wooden thing, and it breaks her knuckles are bleeding and stuff, and then a few minutes later she's diligently punching it over and over again.
Yeah.
It feels good and you feel like you're witnessing her grow, and it was just so good. That's just what I can only say about that movie. Just it's so good. Let's try to circle back to where we started, because I've got some notes here about Pai Mei. Pai Mei's a fascinating figure in the history of kung fu film as well. But we started out talking about the differences between the volumes. Okay.
What do you think of the differences between the volumes?
The way that it was told to me, I guess, like I noticed that they were very different and weird, and then somebody that I was friends with that showed me the first one told me, he framed it in a way that made sense to me. He said the first one is more of like an homage to kung fu movies. The second one is more of an homage to an Old West.
Yeah.
And so I think they feel... I've never watched them back to back, strangely enough. I think it's because it is so long. I think when I was younger, I didn't have the attention span or something to do it back to back. So I don't know if I can't really make a statement to how they feel together, but I know I like the second one a lot more. Mm-hmm. I think when you've seen them over and over again, I think the tension and interactions between the fewer characters in the second movie are far more powerful than the onslaught of nameless victims.
The Crazy 88.
Yeah. Not nameless. Crazy 88 in the first one. So I just want to ask, though, because it sounds like you probably know more about it than I do. I had been told as like a piece of just like trivia that the only reason that the scene in the House of
Blue Leaves
was black and white because the movie would have gotten an NC-17 rating.
Yeah, the MPAA said, like, hey, if you want to show this movie in fucking movie theaters,
yeah,
you're going to have to do something to this scene. So yeah, he cut out a couple of gore shots, but the biggest thing that he did was a pretty creative solution to the problem. Turned it black and white.
The most creative thing about that is it feels artistic. It feels like an artistic choice and not a restricted choice.
Honestly, I like it as an artistic choice.
I think it works. And there's a few things in the first movie like that it's different, but I mean like that scene switches to black and white and it feels like an artistic choice and it makes it work better. And the same thing, the random anime scene.
Oh my god, I forgot to even take any notes about the anime scene.
Which...
We swore, Curtis! We swore to never talk about anime on this show, and Kill Bill has forced our hand. 3 episodes in, we're already breaking all our campaign promises. We said we would never talk about anime. This is going to open the floodgates. You need to watch Neon Genesis Evangelion. We're going to talk about it. Fuck Farm Sims. We're going to talk about NGE on this show. Oh,
what
man.
have
Look,
I done?
I mean, Nier Automata is already kind of an anime. I've already talked about anime on this episode, much less on this show. Turns out, Curtis, I talk a lot of shit about anime. I fucking love anime.
Turns out I fucking love
Turns
some
out
anime.
I love anime.
You're an idiot because you don't like it.
Yeah, I'm turning it around on you. That anime bit, though.
Yeah,
amazing.
wow. That's pretty good. I think, like, it works really well, and it's the same type of thing. It seems artistic. I mean, it is an artistic choice, but it also very much could be like, that'd be kind of a fucked up scene to have a kid do.
Yeah. Like
and I never really thought about that until
when
this
she's on
time.
Boss Matsumoto.
Yeah,
and
this
she,
time
like,
around,
stabs
and
through
there's
him.
lots of blood spraying.
Apparently, they even cut a scene out of the animated one. I guess
Really?
in the Japanese DVD, you see a shot of Boss Matsumoto's like intestines falling out.
I'm just
That's
gonna buy the Japanese. I'll have to buy another regional DVD player though.
But okay, all right. Here's my.
Okay.
Are you ready to hear my grand unified theory?
Yes, please.
Of Kill Bill.
I'm more than ready.
All right. I think that people often boil it down like you said your friend boil it down. And I think it's not inaccurate to say that the first part is largely an homage to kung fu movies and the second part is largely an homage to westerns. But I think it goes deeper than that because part 1 is not just an homage to kung fu movies. It's an homage to Japanese genre cinema. It's to the Far East genre cinema in general, which includes kung fu movies, but it also includes like those weird Japanese movies that came out in the 90s, the like hyper violent ones. Mm-hmm. That's a big piece of the fight in the House of Blue Leaves. That's why the blood sprays out like that. Like the blood doesn't spray out like that in the world. That's something special for when she's in Japan.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, because shit's just like that in Japan. If you watch fucking Ichi the Killer, it's the same way. Have you ever seen Ichi the Killer?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and it's that. I think we talked about this last week. Even that's one of those movies that's like, oh my god, have you seen Ichi? You gotta watch Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
When you're a teenager, it like gets put in front of you like a holy grail. It gets put in front of you like it's the Ark of the fucking Covenant. It's like, open this, your face is gonna melt, but you're gonna love every second of it.
Yeah.
And like something about that buildup is a really profound part of my childhood, and it's something that I didn't get that when I was watching Kill Bill the first time. I was like, all right, yeah, kung fu movies, cool, but so many parts of Kill Bill feel just like those Japanese movies from the 90s.
You know, I don't know. This is a complete shot in the dark, so maybe I don't... maybe this isn't that I have any ground to stand on. But is it possible that... I mean, not only were we younger and didn't have as much of an understanding about foreign cinema at that age, but I wonder if it's possible to some extent that when Kill Bill came out, other movies had come out. I'm basically thinking of like The Matrix, that also had kind of a martial arts style.
So we were like, oh, it's another one of these.
Rush Hour.
Yeah.
There were
right. Shanghai Noon.
Yeah, there was a spark of martial arts.
These, as I'm naming them, these movies are getting
They're
worse.
just getting worse and worse, and then they just become Jackie Chan movies.
The Tuxedo.
The remake of Karate Kid. So I don't know if that's
I think
possible.
You're right. I think Kill Bill kind of got lost in the shuffle at the time. Well, like, I mean, I loved it at the time, but I don't think I think you're right. Because of the number of movies that were doing broadly similar things, kind of bringing kung fu cinema to the United States in a bigger way than it had been before, I think I was able to ignore some of the weirder influences on Kill Bill Volume 1. But, like, the bit when Oren cuts off that guy's head,
yeah,
and the like CGI of his head flying off looks kind of janky.
You know, I'm glad I didn't notice that actually.
Really?
So, yeah, I must have just not.
It's like a really quick shot, but it doesn't. I wouldn't say it bothers me because it looks fucked up enough to be intentional.
You know what I did notice though? That just made me think of I think it was in the first one. There was a little wonky CG here that I did notice. Like I think it's in the first one. There's a shot of a bullet coming out of a gun that's completely CG,
Oh,
and,
right.
And it's like,
when she's remembering it after she's woken up.
Yeah, and it's very like, oh, that's a little dated now. Like,
I am not sure if that's CG. Is that CG?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'd have to like watch.
I feel
it with
like
the
it's
director's commentary or something.
I feel like it's you're looking down the barrel of a gun and the bullet is slowly coming out at you.
It does look weird, but I thought they made like a physical model for that.
It very well
they
could
might
be.
have, but you're right. It looks strange,
but
it fits with the aesthetic of the movie as a whole, I think. But yeah,
I have to throw out there as in reference to that anime section of the movie.
Anime.
I do cringe still every time when is it Matsumoto clenches his teeth so hard that his teeth snap,
spray out. Oh man!
Every time, no matter how many times I watch it, I'm just like, oh
yeah.
So what you took notes, and I
took a lot.
I just took one
notes.
note, like this movie's sick. Like,
well, that's the only note you really need. I took notes like deep emotional resonance. Do we want to just talk about what I think is the most impressive thing about Kill Bill?
Please tell me.
Right up front, all right? The performance that Uma Thurman turns in this movie,
dude,
is the best performance in any Quentin Tarantino movie. It's unbelievable. That's one of the biggest things I didn't get when I was younger.
Yep.
Is the sheer magnitude of the achievement that Uma Thurman pulls off in this movie.
That is something that I was also going to reference as well, because I was watching it. I've seen it a million times, and I'm watching it, and this was the first time I ever thought, how is this the same woman that played Mia Wallace?
Right.
How? Like, she is incredible in this, and I wouldn't even know it was her.
Right.
Unless I was already a fan of Tarantino movies. Yeah. Like, just incredible. Almost as good as her performance in my ex-girlfriend's a superhero, or whatever that fucking movie. Do you remember about? She was in that shitty comedy?
I don't know what you're talking
She was
about.
in a stupid comedy like a few years later, like either her or her ex-boyfriend. One of them was like, it was like a shitty rom-com, and like she was a superhero and her boyfriend and her broke up, and it was like what would it be like if your ex had superpowers? Like, bad joke. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, I'm gonna edit that out.
No, leave it in.
Let them know how dumb you are.
Yeah, her performance is incredible. Like,
yeah.
That actually ties into one of the differences between the volumes that I really picked up on this time, is that in the first volume, you only ever see her after she has been victimized and after she has been on the trail of revenge. Mm-hmm. The only time you see her before she gets killed, I'm pretty sure, in the first movie, is when she's about to be killed, when she's already had like the shit beaten out of her by the divas.
Yep.
Yeah. So through that whole first movie, she is an avatar of vengeance. She becomes, like, I feel like she becomes demonic throughout the course of that first movie, until the point, like, it always peaks for me when I'm watching it, till the point at the very end, after she has killed the crazy 88, and she has that short speech in Japanese about, like, your lives are yours to take with you, but leave the limbs you've lost.
Yeah.
They belong to me now. That's some hard shit to say to some people that you just, like, cut their limbs off. Like, she is demonic in that moment, and I love it. I love it. But that's the only character that you get of her in the first movie, which makes it fit really well with... This is gonna sound racist again. I might have to apologize for this at the end of the episode. But the Japanese and Far Eastern cinema that Tarantino is taking influence from for part one, a lot of times the characters are not that deep.
Yeah. Right?
They are pretty basic a lot of times. They have like one thing that they're after, and it's all about the ways that they go about getting it. It's not about who they are on the inside.
Yeah.
Whereas then part 2, volume 2, you get all the backstory. That's one of the things that I think makes it work really well to watch back to back. Kind of, if you just watch volume 1, you're like, well, that was cool, but like, who are these people?
You get,
what are they about?
And also, like, what happened in this? She just, like, she kills Vernita Green, right? Is that her name?
You nailed it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to remember that.
And then she goes and kills Orenishi.
Yeah.
Like,
she gets the sword.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, because that happens in reverse. So chronologically, she
Right.
kills Oren first.
Right.
But in the flow of the film, you see her kill Vernita Green first, and then she
Right.
goes and
And
kills
it just
Oren.
seems like a lot of movie and a very good movie, but then like not much happens.
That's true.
And then they cram all these other important characters and their deaths into the second half of the movie. Which I don't know. I mean, we're kind of just bouncing all over the place, but one thing that can we talk about? What's her name? The other blonde girl.
Elle Driver,
Yeah.
Daryl Hannah.
Yep, Elle Driver.
Yeah, she's great in the first movie.
She is, yeah.
Even better in the second
and
movie.
That's a really funny memory slip for me on her name, because when I watched them when I was younger, I never thought to myself like, I don't know, maybe I started that wrong. I guess I never thought like she's being a little extreme. I've always thought that Beatrix's mission was pretty righteous as a revenge. But I did wonder sometimes like how did it get this far? Like, why did Bill want to kill her over that? Right. Like, is a broken heart really that? You know, and then I wondered why, even if she had broken his heart, why are these other people want her dead so badly? And then I realized when I watched it this time for the first time that Elle's character, through her entire life, I never realized she was just a worse version of Beatrix. And right. I never noticed that. Like, and then every scene she's in touches upon why she is a inferior version of Beatrix. She's a beautiful blonde, but then her eyeball gets taken out. You know, she failed training, the same training that Uma Thurman, or Beatrix, did so well that she surpassed, as you find out, even Bill.
Yeah, you find out at the very end.
And so everything, and then I forgot her name, and that she loved Bill, and she couldn't have Bill until Beatrix wasn't with Bill anymore. So I never realized, I can see now so much more how that character's drive to hate Beatrix so much is like, oh, clearly she's lived in the shadow of this person who maybe hasn't even realized that she was outshining this other person, because you're learning a lot of this knowledge as Beatrix learns it. Like, why did Pai Mei pull out your eyeball? Or, you know, things like that. So that was something I really took away from it. That was like, wow, you know, that never really clicked, but now, holy fuck. Like,
yeah, Elle Driver is like, Elle Driver. So I was talking about how there are often a lot of unacknowledged references in Kill Bill Volume 1 to film outside of the kung fu genre, kind of movies that evolved from the kung fu genre, and often include like weird kung fu elements to them. Like there's some stuff in Ichi the Killer that's just straight up kung fu scenes. The equivalent for Volume 2, I think, is that it is much broaderly, what the fuck did I just say? Is much done broaderly. It's much more broadly about American cinema than about just Westerns. Case in point, Elle Driver is a Bond villain.
Yeah.
And I know fucking James Bond movies are not American movies, whatever, might as well be.
Yeah.
We identify so much with James Bond that, like, there are so many huge James Bond fans in America. I don't know if those movies even have the same kind of, like, pull in England as they do in America. But, yeah, she is a Bond villain. That's why she gives that speech in the trailer.
Yep.
You remember the sword that very soon will be my sword in the very near future. It's like a 2-minute long speech. It's insane. You like find yourself checking your watch. It's like, when the fuck are you going to stop talking? And then to kind of highlight what you were saying about just Beatrix being a cooler version of Elle. I mean, I think she's her own thing too, but Beatrix's only response to the long speech that Elle gives is to pick up on her saying in the very near future and to respond, bitch, you don't have a fucking future. And then they do the fight, which is like, again, Beatrix has this way as a character of saying the perfect hard-ass line. Kind of the comparison that I saw a lot. I read a lot of reviews from the time and in retrospect about Kill Bill. The comparison that I saw being made over and over again was Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And I think that is a perfect comparison. I think that's what Uma Thurman is giving. I think she's doing a better job of it than Clint Eastwood ever did. Like a way better job than Clint Eastwood ever did. But it's that same idea. Just like the person, the stranger, the nameless stranger. Like she has a name. You can see it on the plane ticket in the first movie. But for most of the two movies, for most of the movie, let's say, I'll consider it one movie.
Yep.
Her name gets bleeped out.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, why does that happen? It's because you want her to be known as the bride.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about? We were talking about Elle and the kind of relationships between the characters, how deep they are.
We hit it. I think, well, speaking of, I just want to say, though, I think that was a fascinating, the fight that they have between Elle and Beatrix.
Oh my God, I love it.
From everything about it, from you just have I guess it kind of starts before Beatrix is even there, because you have Elle killing Bud with the snake in the bag.
The Black Mamba.
Very no less. Yeah.
And then giving him the long speech about the Black Mamba with that incredible line at the beginning, in the African brush. They say in the brush. There's a saying in Africa that goes back thousands of years.
I kind of hate that.
Why? Why do you hate it? Why are you so wrong about that?
I will say I don't hate it. What I don't like is I think it's not even a reason to hate it, but every Tarantino movie has a dialogue where you're like, oh yeah, well, I am watching a Tarantino movie, so I do have to hear this fucking dialogue for a second.
So because I agree with you, but the thing that makes me like it is that it's a speech that she's prepared beforehand and she's reading it word for word off a little notepad. Like that makes it that introduces the element of like self-parody. Like he knows it's this. We'll get to this in Death Proof, but like the feet stuff in Death Proof, like Tarantino knows who he is. Yeah. He knows what people think about him, and he's willing to play with it. He's willing to say like, yeah, that's who I am.
You got it.
She's gonna say the speech that she would give in one of my serious movies, but she's gonna read it off a notepad that she has prepared in very neat script beforehand.
Which is funny too, because it really, now that you mention that, plays off the idea that it's a movie in his universe, that she's literally reading her lines.
Right.
It's not just all right, I don't hate it anymore.
You're right. No, there's nothing bad in Kill Bill.
I was wrong. I mean, what about Bud? That was pretty. He's great in that movie.
I love Bud. Michael Madsen's amazing. Let's talk Bud, because Bud has a fascinating character arc as well. And a lot of it is background that I did not understand as a young person.
Yeah.
But so let's just go through Bud's character arc. Feel free to tune out, audience. I give you permission. Yeah. This is just for us. Bud, one of the first times you see Bud actually say anything is him talking to Bill in the second volume, and he has that line about that woman deserves her revenge, and we deserve to die. But then again, so does she.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just have to see, won't we? And it's like, wow, Bud, that is a fascinating insight. That's really insightful of you. And then Bud, like, when Beatrix actually shows up, all that shit goes out the window. And he not just shoots her, but like handicaps her so that he can
with rock salt.
Shoots her with rock salt so that she'll be in horrible pain, and then sedates her so that she'll fall asleep so that he can bury her alive.
Yep.
Threatens to mace her in the face so that she'll go into the ground like blind, burning, and buried alive. But what happens between those points? How does Bud go from philosophical like trailer man to like rock salt murdering asshole? He has a bad day at work.
Yeah.
His boss lays into him. And it's like, that's all it takes, you know? I went to work and my fucking tough guy asshole boss, who I literally have to restrain every cell in my body from snapping his neck when I talk to him.
Oh, God. Yeah, and that, I think, that's one of the most interesting things about Bud, is that I guess on like one level he seems like such a shit kicker idiot. You know, like he always wears a stupid fucking hat, and
I love the hat. I think that hat works for him really well.
You know,
my wife had an interesting point about the hat, specifically about the line in that speech about the hat. Do you want to hear it now?
Please,
or do you want to So what my wife Megan said is that the reason the boss hates the hat is not because the hat is bad. It's obvious to everyone that the hat is cool. The boss hates the hat because the hat makes it obvious how much cooler Bud is than the boss. It's about a power dynamic between them, because that boss is clearly, I forget what his name is, the boss of the strip club that Bud is a bouncer at. Yeah. Is clearly such a tough guy. Like he's almost a character who is just a guy who's watched too many Quentin Tarantino movies and like taken the wrong lessons from them, where he's like, oh, what I should do to be a good person is like talk shit all the time and like act like a tough guy and like give lengthy speeches that ramble on and on about nothing so that I can like make a point to somebody. He hates the hat because the hat makes it clear how much cooler Bud is.
That's a good point. I never would have thought of that, so I'm glad I have that now.
I wouldn't have either. Thanks, Megan.
If you're listening.
She is.
So I think you have the shit kicker Bud. He has the fucking hat. Mm-hmm. He's drinking the frozen margaritas.
Oh my God, like so pouring them so sloppily into the cups.
And then he just kind of has that other side of, you know, she wants to start some shit, she'll come down to the bar and start some shit. And you're just like, come on, dude, like,
we got to put a pin in that line, because that line gets at something that I really love about it.
I love the you hawked a priceless Hanzo sword.
Well, priceless.
Yeah. Not in El Paso.
In El Paso, you can get $250 for it.
I don't know.
And then the reveal that he did not hawk it.
Yeah.
The reveal that he was lying to Bill about that. He kept the sword. He keeps it with his golf clubs.
Yeah. I think too that you have that, so you're like, well, Bud never uses the sword,
right?
So you're like, well, why would he lie? But they also have the line of like, Bill is talking to him and he's like, I know we haven't spoken in some time.
I know we ended on
when we did it wasn't pleasant. And it just, you're like, wow, like what happened? Like what is going, like, and what these guys are brothers.
Right.
And look at Bill's life and what has made Bud apparently give all that up to go drink frozen margaritas in a camper.
In the fucking desert.
In the middle of the desert. Like, and work at a titty bar. Like,
that's to another thing to sum up how great these movies are that I think we're getting at right now is that all the characters feel like they have complex internal lives and complex histories, which you're not necessarily expecting from like what the first movie is.
Yep.
But even then, you can see it in the first movie. You can see Vernita Green's life.
Yeah.
You can see what kind of person she is, even from she's in the movie for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was it. It's just that the writing's really good in Quentin Tarantino movies, fucking surprising no one.
Yeah. I think one of the big things for that with me, I don't know if it was more in the first one or the second one, but when they, of course I can't remember his name now, but when they show the man that Beatrix is going to marry, he's just like the biggest
Plimpton.
Tommy Plimpton. The biggest like shithead ever. And even Bill's like, that's what you're gonna stop, you're gonna give up being an assassin for this guy.
I love Tommy Plimpton. I think that Tommy Plimpton is exactly who Tommy Plimpton needs to be, because if these movies are in part about the roles that people play in their lives and how people can play multiple roles that seem contradictory but actually are just everything that person is, from who Beatrix portrays herself to be, I can totally see her genuinely loving Tommy Plimpton.
Yeah. And
her weird fucking hippie friends that they hang out with. Like, where were they? Like Oklahoma or something?
Yeah.
Or Tennessee. So one of those weird, like, middle of the country states. Like, she just wants her name to be Arlene Plimpton, and she just wants to, like, live a, like, what to many people would seem a boring life, especially in comparison to, like, to jetting around the world, killing people for vast sums of money, as Bill puts it at the wedding chapel. But to her, it is a life. What she has had up to that point has not been a life. It's been, I feel, to me at least, and you can feel free to disagree with this, I feel like up to that point, she sees it as a job.
Yeah.
Not even a particularly good job, right? Like, No, I'm that's wrong. I think she gets a thrill out of it, right?
Yeah.
I think she enjoys what she does in the same way that anyone enjoys doing something that they're really, really good at.
Yeah. Well, I think too that Bill kind of calls it out in the film. He says that she is a killer. I think it seems she fell into this, it would seem, and that's what she is meant to do. And I think her getting pregnant kind of like made her think, like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Like,
right. Can I be both a killer and a mother?
Yep.
Is it possible for those two roles to coexist in my life? And to her, in that moment, in that great scene where she's telling Bill about the moment that she decided to run away, it seems like she can't. It seems like she cannot she cannot resolve that, man.
How good is this movie?
How good is this fucking movie? It's so good. Anyway, what were we talking about?
I don't even know. You know who would have played, what's his name again? The husband?
Tommy Plimpton.
Tommy Plimpton. You know who would have played him if Tarantino had made this movie 10 years in the future?
Who?
John C. Reilly. Like, if he had made Kill Bill with the same cameo fest that, like, Django and Hateful Eight had.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely would have been John C. Reilly that played Tommy.
Oh, God.
What else do you have in your notes?
What else do I have in my notes? Well, let's just say again how great Uma Thurman's performance is.
Kills it.
Her
incredible.
Like that character has so many layers in a movie full of like surprisingly deep characters. Her character just kind of keeps going and going.
Yep.
I'm not typically a like revenge-minded person, but she sells it.
Yeah.
Right? She sells the idea that no, they deserve this. The thing that they did to her was so horrible.
Yeah.
And done for such a shitty reason by such a bad group of people that they just she deserves to be able to kill them.
Yeah.
And I don't like, not even kind of Vernita Green. Even like this movie makes me think a lot about like, if you fuck up that bad, do you deserve forgiveness?
Yeah.
Like, does Vivica A. Fox's character deserve forgiveness? She's changed. She's different now. She is a mother. She's a suburban housewife.
One of the most important, and that shows that change too, is that, and I love the line, I don't remember exactly what it is, but Vernita Green kind of tries to pull like a, hey, that was like 5 years ago, I have a daughter now, and
right.
Beatrix is like, don't fucking pull that, like,
don't parade your daughter around.
I was literally pregnant.
Right.
Like,
what's the line where she's like, where Beatrix says, I lost it already.
Yeah.
I don't know. She says, just because I don't want to kill you in front of your daughter does not mean you should parade her around in front of me or something. I'm paraphrasing, but it's a really good moment. What do I love about that scene? The thing I love about the scene in the house is that A, it's a lot more like the second movie than it is the rest of the first.
Yeah. Right.
And B, the fight is so good.
Yeah.
It's one of many incredible fights. Like all the best fights in Kill Bill are the short ones where the two combatants are really trying to kill each other. Yeah. That's the sense that you get from that scene in that house.
I feel like we opened a can of worms here because now we have to like talk about each fight.
Hell yeah, we do. Let's talk about them in order.
But so that's the first one, correct?
That's the first fight in the movie.
And it's so interesting to see how it's paced. They have to stop because the daughter comes home, and then they'll get some dialogue in.
Hey, you want some coffee?
Yeah. And I just think it's like when I watch it now and I've thought about it a little bit, I'm like, what does this say about these people? Like these characters, that they can be literally just destroying their whole house and trying to murder each other. And then they're like, oh, well, we have to stop for a minute. And like, then they shoot the shit. They catch up, they're like, oh. And then,
I should have been motherfucking Black Mamba.
Yeah. They talk about the past.
Yeah, right. They talk about their shared history, and it feels vivid.
Yeah.
And realistic. And
I did not expect the first time I watched that for Vernita to have the pistol in the box of cereal.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's so quick. They have this long, drawn out, fight, and then dialogue, and then fight, and all of a sudden, she's dead. Like, Well, it is slow motion though, so that's sick. But
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Any other thoughts on the fight in the house? I think that it's an important part of the movie to define Bill's motivation. And it took me a bit of thinking to get to this point, so it might take a bit of talking to get to it, and I might not even make it. But one of the tensions in the movie is the question of why did Bill do this to Beatrix? And if you think about it, you can come up with a few possible answers. One of the first possible answers that I came up with is like, well, he didn't want her to leave the crew, or he didn't want her to live a normal life, or he was worried that she would say something about their like International Assassins Guild.
Yeah.
But Vivica A. Fox's character, the Vernita Green scene right at the beginning, cuts that possibility out, because she is doing essentially
that's a good point.
What Beatrix would have wanted to do, and Bill is fine with it.
Yeah.
As far as we can see, that is. It seems like Vernita Green has made a clean cut. She has a different name. She's living far away from any like international assassinations, and she has her daughter.
In Pasadena, right?
Fucking Pasadena.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what the title says on there, Pasadena. Yeah, so I think that's an important piece of motivation work for Bill, which is crazy that it happens in a scene that doesn't even involve him directly. Another thing about that scene, and this is gonna set me in going through the other movies a little bit too, is that it's the first time where a character in dialogue sets up like an incredibly elaborate fight scene, like a cliche almost fight scene. The thing where it's like, I'll meet you.
Yeah.
There's a baseball diamond near here. It's dressing all black stocking covering your hair.
Yeah.
Like nobody talks like that. First off, nobody says shit like that. We'll have us a knife fight. The way she says that gets me every time. It sets up an elaborate fight scene that is then undercut immediately by characters killing each other in a flash, right?
Yeah.
You can imagine that whole fight scene in your head. In any other movie, they would have taken that route with it. But Tarantino's like, no, I like it better if these characters genuinely want to kill each other. They're not interested in giving the audience a show.
Yeah.
They're interested in killing each other.
She has a lot of people to kill, so
she's got a long
list. She's like at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. Yeah. And that happens a couple other times. There's the thing that you already mentioned, that line that Bud has, where he says, if she wants to start some shit, all she has to do is come down to the club and start a fight. Yep. It's like, wow, that's another setup for like a really cool Roadhouse style kung fu fight scene. Like, oh, we've got bystanders now. There's all kinds of stuff. How's she gonna handle it? She doesn't. Turns out she doesn't even kill Bud. Right? Like the Black Mamba kills Bud, and there could be an argument made that the Black Mamba is as good a representative of the identity of the Black Mamba as Beatrix the Killer is. That's a whole other side of this movie that we can talk about later, about identity and about the roles that you play and the ways that you identify yourself. So in a way, Bud does get killed by the Black Mamba, right? By the idea of the killer side of Beatrix does kill. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. And then Bill sets up that great fight scene idea as well, where he's like, meet me down on the beach. We can do it in the middle of the night if you want, but I have a flair for the dramatics, so let's wait for sunrise. Yeah. Do it at dawn. Have a sword fight. It's like, yeah, wow, that fight scene could go for 10 minutes and be really cool, but no, it ends in less than 10 seconds. Yep. It seems like less than 10 seconds of just incredibly well shot. Like it might be 10 to 20 seconds. I don't know. It's crazy short, less than 30 seconds. It still has a power dynamic to it. That fight scene right at the end between Beatrix and Bill, unbelievably good.
Yeah.
But I think that about wraps up all the things that I love about that fight scene. about the Vivica A. Fox fight scene.
I will. So and then we have Oren Ishii after that, right?
Is that the very next one? Like the House of Blue Leaves fight? Does that come right after?
I think
there's no other fights.
I think those are the only two in the first one. So I will say that one thing that I think is really cool that I noticed is that in a way where Tarantino paid tribute to these Japanese movies in the first one, I love that this movie has like the polar ends of like a fight scene. Like is it House of Blue Leaves? Is that?
So, yeah, Showdown at the House of Blue Leaves.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw! Get yourself down here, get in a barrel, roll down.
So, I love the dynamic that in this fight there's string fighting. She's running up the railings and jumping off the walls.
Yeah, you're right. It looks completely unrealistic.
Yeah,
but it's
dope. And then
it's
they
so cool.
even
she's a ninja.
Yeah, and to even I have to skip ahead a sec before we go back, but so they have that in the first part of the movie, and then in the second part where it almost maybe it emphasizes how funny it is because it is humorous. They have a sword fight in a trailer, like where they can't even get the sword out of the sheath because it's so small. And I think that's true. You having both of those in the same movie is essentially the same movie.
Let's call it the same.
Yeah,
movie.
Is a very interesting way to show that, and it's a way that it's also not that fight you would expect it to be. You expect to have this big roadhouse fight, and then it all happens. In a little shitty metal trailer.
Right.
And then there's also they call on, like, how ridiculous is this? But it's not cheesy. Like, they make jokes, and it still just works. Like,
so, going off that thing you said about the trailer, one of the things I like about that setup is that it's clear that, from what Elle says to Bud, about, like, the greatest warrior I've ever known was killed by, like, a piece of shit like you.
Yeah.
I'm feeling regret. She has that whole speech, and her whole, like, Bond villain style speech to Beatrix about what her plans are makes it clear that Elle is expecting a long showdown.
Yeah.
Elle is expecting maybe we get up on the roof of this trailer, maybe she hides, she's climbing around underneath the trailer, and I gotta find her. But it seems like L.A. overestimates the amount of respect that Beatrix has for her.
Yep.
And B underestimates how pissed off Beatrix is going to be about her having killed Pai Mei.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rage in that moment that I see in Uma Thurman's untouchable performance.
I think one of the biggest things that it's one of the other humorous things about that fight, but also draws on the amount of Elle not understanding the kind of respect that Beatrix lacks for her is she literally gives her a swirly. She stuffs her face in a toilet. Like,
yeah. And I love the way that Elle gets out of that, right? Where she's like,
remember.
She
flushes it, right?
She flushes it so she can get a breath.
Yeah.
Anyway, House of Blue Leaves.
Yeah.
We'll
get
big
back
old
to
wire fight, crazy 88.
And killing. Were there really 88 of them? No, they just
call themselves that.
It sounds cool. Like, I love that so much.
The fact that that's the opening of the second movie. Well, and the fact that having watched them at the same, like, I think I had like a 20-minute intermission to like cook some mac and cheese between movies because I know how to live. But the fact that I was hearing that line no more than 30 minutes after having watched that big, like, blown out, like, Hong Kong style, Japanese style movie fight, what just made it hilarious. Like, oh wow, yeah, you're and I'm gonna say this about almost every Quentin Tarantino movie that we watch, but that's one of those moments that makes it clear that you are watching a person who is at the top of their game.
Yeah. Right?
Like, he is in control of everything the audience is feeling. If the movies work for you. If they don't, why are you listening?
Yeah.
But if those movies work for you, then you know that you're in good hands the whole time. It's like, he knows I really enjoyed that fight. He also knows it was a little ridiculous, and he knows this movie's going to feel different. So he's taking those expectations that you have, and he's flipping them around. He's making it like, oh, you think you know what to expect. You don't know what to expect. I did that fight. That fight's over. Now we're moving on to other material. House of Blue Leaves. So good, though.
As you mentioned before, what's the little schoolgirl?
Go-Go Yubari.
That is such a good fight.
Played by, like, Chiaki something. I don't remember. She was in, I believe she was in the Japanese Battle Royale.
I think you're right.
The film, yeah. She's got great, like, creepy schoolgirl energy.
Yeah, and that's a very good fight. There's a lot of tension. I will use the word tension 7,000 times.
Hey, we're talking about Quentin Tarantino
movies.
Yeah.
But you really, she has slain all these people, you know, and then it's very hard to, like, it's scary to watch her kick that ball and chain around, and you're like, oh fuck, like, this is gonna get real.
She like gets hit by it at one point.
Yeah.
Every time I see that, I'm like, oh, is she gonna make it out of this?
Yeah, she gets hit right in the chest and then spits out a bunch of blood when she hits the ground.
That's a scary shot.
And she's very... Anything they show with Go-Go is just very inhuman and unsettling, you know, from the... I think when they give her little vignette, basically, they show her, like, killing that drunk...
The guy was like, do you like Lamborghinis?
Yeah.
He's like, Lamborghinis. Italian trash.
Yeah.
Do you want to fuck me?
Yeah.
Well, like, I think that's a really cool thing, because you may or may not be aware of this, Curtis, but in Japanese culture, there's a lot of fetishization of young girls. More so, I'm going to say, and I don't even feel like this is racist. I feel like this is an acknowledged difference between, like, the popular cultures of the two countries. It's a lot more permissible to talk about fucking a schoolgirl in Japan than it is in America.
Okay.
And that's the imagery that he's playing with there. Because, like, she's not in a sexy schoolgirl in American sense, but she does look young, and she does look vulnerable, and that youth and that vulnerability are kind of, wow, we're getting into some areas that, hi mom, that youth and that vulnerability are the things that are fetishized.
It says she's 17, right?
Right.
I think so. I was wondering if it was gonna be like a... I forgot. I was thinking this, and then I realized she was 17. I was thinking, I wonder if it was like a Angus Young thing, where she's not really, you know, a little schoolgirl. She just fucking dresses in a schoolgirl uniform, but she is 17. So
yeah, I doubt she is attending classes.
Yeah, she's probably busy.
She probably spends all her time with Oren.
Yeah.
But that's what he's undercutting with that, and that's the same thing. He's stealing that pretty much straight from Battle Royale, is this idea that, like, all right, Japan has fetishized youth, so now we're going to take these fetishized youths and put them on an island together, and they're going to have to murder each other. We're going to up the violence levels. I feel like that's what he's drawing directly from with Go-Go. She's terrifying. She's one of the... She's other than Oren, she is probably the most capable and dangerous opponent that Beatrix fights in the first volume.
Definitely.
That fight scares the shit out of me every time. It's so good. Like when they're jumping around on the tables and like you see their unsteady footing, it's wiggling a little bit. Oh man. But yeah, then what else happens?
It's strange. It's not that I dislike what is her name?
Which one?
Oren Ishii, who plays her?
Lucy Liu.
It's not that I dislike Lucy Liu's performance in the film, because I think she has a very powerful performance, but I do think her fight is overshadowed by Go-Go's fight and even the French woman Sophie. Even the things that happen with Sophie are they outweigh Oren Ishii's fight, and then I feel like I don't feel like the fight with Oren Ishii is just not that... It's pretty because it's, you know, there's white and then the red blood, and
it's a real weird fantasy moment.
Yeah,
she opens up the doors and you see behind it the panorama of the Japanese garden in wintertime. It's a beautiful moment. I love the Oren fight because I love every frame of these movies. There's nothing, again, he never repeats his ideas. That's one of the things I love about Kill Bill and about Tarantino in general. Once he's got something out there, it's like, why return to that? There's nothing else quite like the Oren fight, and I feel like it is an important moment because I guess we talked already about how Elle Driver, California Mountain Snake, as she is known, her diva's name, Elle Driver overestimates the amount of respect that Beatrix has for her. Mm-hmm. I feel like Oren Ishii has respect for Beatrix. I feel like they have one of the most conventionally respectable and respectful fights between each other. Honorable, I guess, might be the word.
I definitely think that that's true. I think out of anybody in the Viper Death Squad, whatever they're called,
Deadly Viper Assassination Squad, Curtis,
right?
Divas.
Yes,
yes.
I think that every other, and maybe that's why it was so not an overreaction for all of them to try to kill Beatrix for breaking Bill's heart, is that aside from Oren, I don't think any of them like her. Like, Ella's obviously jealous of her. Bud doesn't really like women.
I think that's enough said about that's true. He's got a problem with women.
Yeah, Vernita Green is jealous that she was not Black Mamba.
I think there's probably more to that as well. I think that's probably one of those things where it's like for every statement that she says like that, there's probably 100 things she's thought about.
Yeah,
about Beatrix over the years.
And obviously she broke Bill's heart, but I do think that they don't really give much of a reason that Oren Ishii would dislike Beatrix, and she does treat her with the most respect out of any of the... Which, I mean, is kind of crazy because really... Oren Ishii is the most respectable out of anybody in the Assassin Squad, to the point where I'll just call it Divas. Fine. I'll just say
it's Divas. Bill is the snake charmer. It's a whole Charlie's Angels thing that
So to the point where when I watched it again, I was like, why is Oren Ishii a part of this? Like, it seems like she is a crime boss. Why? Why is she part of this assassination squad? Why isn't she just doing that on her own?
She wasn't a crime boss when she was part of the assassination squad.
Oh, you know what?
Right?
They show everything in strange order.
They put everything in a strange order. It's when she's being introduced. It's when Beatrix is thinking about her background. I'm pretty sure it's right before the anime sequence. Beatrix says that Oren Ishii made it to the top of the crime world after leaving the squad because of Bill's influence and money.
Oh,
so he helped. Well, and her own skills as a crime boss as well. She cuts that guy's head off real good.
The way, because that is true now that you say that, but the way I had remembered it was thinking that when they show the flashback, she kills the boss and then she is kind of the boss, which I guess isn't strictly the case. So that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
But anyway,
what's
next?
So we're talking about the Oren fight. I don't love the way her brain looks.
Yeah, that's one of those dated CG
one of those
things,
which feels like they could have done it better. But that's go watch Ichi the Killer. The CGI looks like shit.
Yeah,
because they didn't have a budget. They
it looks like it's like a squishy pillow sitting on top of her head,
right?
Which probably because it is
exactly. It looks terrible, but it works with the rest of how everything else looks in Japan.
Yeah.
Are we still talking about fights? Do you want to keep going through fights?
We can, but I will say we're at an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
We have to at least talk about Bill.
We got to talk about Bill. All right. So
did we talk about Pai Mei enough? Can we talk?
No, we didn't talk about Pai Mei enough. We got to talk more about Pai Mei.
Okay.
What do we got? Do you have a pen? I feel like I should be taking notes on my notes.
Notes on the notes.
What am I not going to get to? We might not even talk about Hattori Hanzo. Jesus.
Oh, shit. Uh-oh.
Sonny Chiba.
Yes, and gives a really good performance.
He gives a great performance. He's his broad. I don't want to get into more shit. I've already got to apologize at the end of this episode for some other racist shit that I said. But his my English very good.
Yeah.
You say arigato. We say arigato. He's giving a performance for a tourist, right?
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. And then when she's like, what Japanese do I know? Domo?
Yeah.
And arigato and konnichiwa. and then she goes into flawless Japanese afterwards. And he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Who do you want to talk to? Interesting stuff about Hattori Hanzo. Sonny Chiba, that is not the first time Sonny Chiba had portrayed Hattori Hanzo.
Really?
Hattori Hanzo was a 16th century ninja.
Oh, okay.
An actual person was Hattori Hanzo. there's a bunch of stuff that he did during, I believe, the Sengoku period of Japanese history. What's going on with me? I'm falling apart over here. But there was let me look at the title. There was a series, a TV series in Japan in the 80s called Shadow Warriors. And Sonny Chiba played different generations of Hattori Hanzo's descendants.
Oh, okay.
So I think the idea in Kill Bill is that he's just another generation.
Quentin Tarantino, why are you so smart?
Quentin Tarantino, why you like so many things?
Why do you pull from such a wide depth?
Like so many references. So yeah, the Hattori Hanzo bit, there were a lot of people writing reviews at the time that are like, yeah, even people were like, yeah, movie's really good. They're like, it does slow down for the Hattori Hanzo chapter. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's so good. I think it's beautiful. I think the music when she's looking at the swords.
I've been waiting for a chance to say that, actually, when she opens up the attic and the song that plays while she's looking at the swords. One of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard. It's amazing.
It's great. If you haven't seen Kill Bill, hey, go watch Kill Bill. Look out for that music. I think that's about all there is about Hattori Hanzo. Is there anything you wanted to say about Hattori Hanzo?
No, I just thought it was great.
What about that moment when the... I know I just said I had nothing else to say, but I got more to say about the Hattori Hanzo chapter. The bald guy, right?
Yeah.
At the end,
sidekick.
he's like, I'm not really bald. I shave my head.
Yeah, that's so good.
If you go in and look at the script, he is called Bald Man. That's his name. So like, I just love the idea of Tarantino sitting down in front of a script saying like, how am I going to identify this character? He's bald.
Yeah.
What's his last line in the scene going to be? I'm not really bald. I shave my head.
I really liked that. The only thing that I have to add that I really liked was the Hanzo line, the funny, you like you like samurai swords, I like baseball.
You posted that on your Facebook. I saw that. That was before I had even rewatched Kill Bill. So as I was watching it, was as he was holding the baseball, I was like, oh shit, this is the part that Curtis posted. That is a great shot. Oh man. Anyway, that's Hattori Hanzo.
I think we've done L and Bud.
L and Bud, I think we've talked about enough. We've talked about the battle at the House of Blue Leaves.
Yep.
Let's get into Pai Mei.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, so I didn't realize until I had just this time when I rewatched it because I was doing a little more research, I didn't realize that the character of Pai Mei is an already existing thing that Tarantino Ben's like, I knew that.
Just pointing at my notes right now.
That he drew upon, and because I guess I'd never really noticed, or it was the first time I thought to be like, did he just say that Pai Mei was like 1,000 years old?
Yeah, did he just tell a story about Pai Mei in the year 10003?
So I thought that was very interesting, and he's great in that. Like
Gordon Liu, same guy who plays Johnny Mo in Volume 1.
Really?
The general of the Crazy 88.
Oh, I didn't know.
The guy that like he's like the last guy that she kills. He's the best fighter of the Crazy 88.
Oh, well, there you go.
Same dude. He wears a Kato mask.
Yeah.
For that whole scene, so you don't recognize him. And then as Pai Mei, he's got giant eyebrows,
the big bushy eyebrows, and the wispy beard.
Every time he does it, it makes a little whoosh.
And I think the best thing about Pai Mei is that there are so many things about him that are you're a viewer, Pai Mei is not a real person, and as a viewer,
wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. Hold up.
Pai Mei was a historical person.
Okay, so there we go.
Anyway,
but he's portrayed as this despicable person, but even as a viewer, not even considering Beatrix, he commands respect from you, and you. When he starts to come around towards Beatrix, you are happy that she is finally pleasing this person who hates Caucasians, loathes women.
And I think it's like hates Caucasians, hates Caucasians, loathes Americans, and has nothing but disdain for women or something. It's a great line that Bill has.
And so you just really get on his side, and then, the turning point in her training is that really powerful scene where it's raining and they're eating rice and they live in this little stone hut.
It holds on her trying to pick up that rice with the chopsticks for a long time.
And she's been getting the shit kicked out of her for hours a day.
She's been punching a fucking wooden piece of wood. And that was a dumb way to say that. I just sounded like
good.
a complete fucking idiot.
So she hits her lowest point. She can't, she's kind of hitting a wall, literally.
Oh shit!
Whoa, with her training, and
you making me look like a chump right now, Curtis. Well, the best I can come up with is a wooden piece of wood. You come up with a hot reference like that. Oh, man.
And she's trying to eat this bowl of rice with chopsticks, and her hands are practically broken, and she drops it, and she hits this lowest point where she gives up, and she starts to just, like, with broken fingers, just pick up handfuls of rice off the table. And instead of showing compassion, which, she's at her lowest point, Pai Mei slaps the bowl off the table and says, if you're going to eat like a dog, you could live outside and eat off the ground like a dog. Yeah. And then, but instead of that being it, he pushes his own food. He
slides another bowl of rice
which
to her.
Might not sound like much to us, but to a person like Pai Mei, that is an utmost sign of respect.
He's giving her a chance to do better.
And she takes it, and then that is the turning point that's
the last piece of that scene also.
Is it?
Right after that, I believe that's the case. Right after that, it goes back to the coffin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that, but okay.
Yeah, I think so. Because that's the lesson that she learns. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
But the lesson that she learns by flashing back to Pai Mei is twofold. One, the lesson is about the 3-inch punch. The other lesson is, even at your lowest point, you can still come back.
Yep.
She is literally at her lowest point. She's under the ground in a coffin.
And the orchestral music as she's climbing up out of her grave.
A shot that looks very strange.
Yeah, it really...
Because but that's the only way it could work, right? She can't dig upwards, really. So she's climbing through the dirt, like ninja style. Yeah. She's climbing through the dirt as it falls down to fill in
the cavity that she has created.
Enough loose dirt is created that she can climb up through that hole. I don't know, like if that could really happen.
Probably
but
not.
It feels like something that the bride could do.
Yeah. I don't doubt it at any. In the context of the movie, I suspend my disbelief, and I've never even questioned it.
Right. She's all covered with dust, and she walks into the diner or whatever, the gas station. She sits down, all quiet. Can I have a glass of water?
And then that is so funny, and then that kind of. And then it goes to the next scene, but something I never really noticed is that she just walks to Bud's house from that point. She's still covered in dust, and she just walks through the desert barefoot.
She's a vengeance demon. She's incredible. She's amazing.
And I know we beat it into the ground, but I just have to say quickly, when she plucks out Elle's eye, her other eye, that is just one of the most... And then everything, all the composure that Elle has just out the window is so satisfying.
That performance that Daryl Hannah gives apparently is a reference to her performance in Blade Runner.
I've never seen Blade Runner.
I don't like it that much, but it's a good reference.
Yeah, I have 5 movies that I love to just be like, I've never seen that.
I've never seen it, and I'm never going to. You might as well shut up right now.
Yeah, I've never seen Jaws.
We should watch Jaws.
Yeah,
I've never seen Jaws either.
Oh, you've never seen it either?
No,
oh,
I
man.
haven't.
We're like kindred spirits here.
Yeah, man. We really are.
That's
why we're
Jaws.
doing a podcast together. Let's do an episode about Jaws. That would be cool. Yeah, anyway. Pai Mei.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about Pai Mei?
No, I just think that I just love that character. Everything, it's
clear that, because you mentioned that Pai Mei is a character in other Kung Fu movies. He's often like a despicable villain, too, in other Kung Fu movies from the research that I've done. But he has this like effortless way of just like, his chi is so strong that he can like walk away from a punch and return it in the same fluid movement, right? He can never hit Pai Mei. He's too fluid. He knows what you're going to do before you do it.
Yeah.
And it's clear that Quentin Tarantino, when he was very young, got like inspired by this character. That character stuck with him from, I would assume, quite a young age of watching Kung Fu movies. And maybe he was just doing research about Kung Fu movies. Quentin Tarantino never watched a Kung Fu movie until he decided to make Kill Bill, and then he did a bunch of research, and he was like, hey, this Pai Mei guy's pretty cool. Shows up a couple times. I'll throw him in there.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the best parts about Pai Mei is that they allude to this, like, unworldly like supernatural abilities that he has, where he's like 1,000 years old.
Yeah, he's
but
immortal.
they don't really get too much into it. They mention that he's 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things where you first go like, what the fuck? Like when they're initially fighting, and she swings a sword, she loses her temper and swings a sword at him, and he jumps and lands on her sword.
Yeah, she tries to throw a thrust at him,
Yep.
and he just jumps after her. And the style of that fight is very in keeping with other Pai Mei fight scenes that I've seen clips from in my research.
Some post research.
There's a really good Vice article that includes some really good. It seems like they're characteristic gifs of Pai Mei's fighting style. What the fuck was I talking about? His fighting style in that fight, and her fighting style as well. We're back to fights. What's going on?
We're going backwards.
Her fighting style is different as well from any other time that you see her fighting. She's much less controlled. She's obviously an amateur who's like, she has like a nut of raw talent.
Yeah.
But she does not have the kind of control that she has in other scenes. And Pai Mei's able to take advantage of that. Pai Mei's able to walk past her blows, essentially. He is effortlessly able to deflect everything that she throws at him. And the stuff that she's throwing at him, this is another, hey, thanks, Megan, for this great comparison. This wasn't her intention to say this, but anyway, this is what I took from what my wife said. The way that she fights looks like she's on like a TV show from the early 2000s. It looks like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fight, right? She's just big, broad movements, right? It's a TV fight.
Yep.
She's not trying to kill Pai Mei. She's trying to fight him.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that she learns, that she takes to all the fights that she has after she leaves Pai Mei's mountain, is that if you're fighting someone, if it's worth fighting someone, you should be trying to kill them.
Yeah.
Right? Man.
This movie's
so good.
Right,
This,
so
the,
we'll
like,
touch
Warriors
we'll
Code
touch on
shit.
Bill for a minute before we go to our next movie.
We don't want this to go over 2 hours.
We're at an hour and a half right now.
Oh, God. All right, let's talk Bill. I've got a lot of stuff to say about Bill. I think I disagree with you slightly about Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even the first thing where we're introduced to Bill, even as far as the last scene in the movie, or the last scene with Bill, even knowing that her daughter is alive, when seeing her and when she just there she is and playing with Bill is just gut wrenching.
That scene makes me cry every time I watch it.
Literally.
I can't
I'm glad you said it, man.
Yeah, hey, right. That's real
safe
fucking
here,
life,
buddy.
Yeah,
Like-
this is a safe space. I burst into tears every time when the camera, you see, because you've been on this whole journey. That's one of the biggest pieces about watching it as one big movie. You've been on this whole journey with the bride. It's all about the bride. She has a righteous mission. There's not a moment where the movie does not believe that she's doing the right thing.
Yep.
I mean, maybe there's room for disagreement about that. But to me, there's never a moment where it doesn't feel like she is on the right track. She's doing the right thing. These people deserve to die, and she deserves her revenge. And then you get to that bit with Bill and the kid, and you realize that Bill has been inundating this child with violence.
Yeah.
Bill has been trying to turn this child into a killer, because that seemingly is what Bill thinks is a person's highest calling.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of what I take from Bill, is that's his worldview, is that the best thing a person can be is an efficient, skilled killer. And he's laying the groundwork with BB. And watching Uma Thurman see that this is happening, realize what's happening, realize that not only is Bill doing this to her daughter, he's also doing it because he wants to. It's like a fuck you to Beatrix.
Yep.
Right? It's
Well,
like, look what
okay.
I'm doing.
So we have maybe.
All right.
I think because one of the questions we'll get to. There's a question I wanted to ask you when we get to the appropriate time, but I think I could definitely see it. I feel like I'm in the middle. I could see it as a fuck you to Beatrix, but I also think the argument could be made that he's just trying to make himself a new Beatrix because he misses Beatrix. To which my main question was based on how it ends with Bill. Do you think that Beatrix and Bill still love each other?
I don't think that Bill ever loved Beatrix, and I don't think that Beatrix loves Bill at the end. Okay. I think the moment the last moment when Beatrix loves Bill is when she kisses him in the church. I think that's her farewell to him, and she doesn't realize that he's about to give her his style of farewell, which is a gangland style gunning down.
8 dead, 9 if you count the fetus.
Yeah. It's a gut-wrenching scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, the relationship that I think that Bill and Beatrix had to each other when they were lovers is that of like the creepy professor like scoping out young chicks and thinking like, oh, I could teach her a thing or two about the world, right?
Yeah.
Thinking like, oh, I'm so worthwhile. She should learn about the world from me. And Beatrix, being an impressionable young person, buying into that idea and going along with it because she really does learn a lot from Bill.
Yeah.
But that should never have been a romantic relationship.
Right.
He crossed a line. I think that's one of the things that Kill Bill is about the line that he crossed. And I never picked up on it when I was younger because I didn't have the experience of seeing that kind of power dynamic play out.
I never approached it from that angle. I've never thought about that.
But I think that one of the core pieces of how I see Kill Bill now has to do with, it's about an abusive relationship. It's about Bill and Beatrix being in an abusive relationship. She tries to get out. He kills her. He tries to kill her, and then she comes back for her revenge. It's a grindhouse thing, right? Like the female revenge movie, the violent female revenge movie, is one of the hearts of Kill Bill. And yeah, they should never have been in that romantic relationship.
I that makes sense to me. I've never thought about it like that, but I think that because I was watching it and there's a lot of different emotion going on in that scene, and a lot of it's same thing. It's paced very strangely. You think it's going to lead up to this, big fight, but it keeps getting postponed, and then there's the truth serum, and then
there's the bit where they're laying in bed together.
Where
Beatrix and BB are laying in bed together watching Shogun Assassin.
What's funny is I've seen that movie so many times, but I didn't know what Shogun Assassin was, and then when I watched it now, I was like, "Oh shit, they're watching Shogun Assassin!"
Assassin.
Which I only know what Shogun Assassin is because of Liquid Swords by the Jizza. So, so that was kind of a weird, like, oh shit, that's been right in front of me my whole life, and I never fucking picked up on it. But I love one of the moments where you have Bill, who in this whole saga is just 1 or 2 steps ahead of Beatrix, and then they fight, and not only does she best him, you get that satisfaction of Pai Mei taught you the 5 fingers of death, or whatever.
The 5-point exploding palm, 5-point palm exploding heart technique. Yeah. That is a moment of betrayal from way back for him.
And then it's just, I can't say enough about Uma Thurman. She's sobbing and just says yes,
Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah,
of course he did, Bill. Because I am better than you.
Yeah,
Pai Mei. You get the feeling that Bill throughout his life, because Hattori Hanzo also has bad feelings about Bill.
Yep.
That's the reason he makes her the sword.
He breaks a blood oath.
That's another great line from that scene between Bill and Bud, where Bud, it's just 2 dudes talking outside of a trailer, and Bud says, "Didn't he swear a blood oath never to make another sword? It would appear he has broken it." Yeah, Bill has gone through his life as like a naturally skilled killer. That people will get close to him. Teachers will bring him on because he's so skilled. And then they'll discover the like dark, misogynist asshole core of Bill. And they'll say, "Get the fuck out of my dojo."
Yeah. Which is funny too, because Pai Mei kind of, does the where he teaches Beatrix the exploding palm technique. And then, you have what were we just talking about? Shit, don't remember.
Bill?
But
Bill,
yeah,
Bud.
But also with God damn, man, it's gone. Shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, that's a bad feeling.
That is a bad feeling.
Another little detail that I love from the Pai Mei sequence, going way back. But it's kind of relevant to this, about the power dynamic between Bill and other people, and the power dynamic between Bill and Beatrix, which is the thing that comes to a head at the climax at Bill's villa, right? Is that power dynamic. You realize then what the real power dynamic is, which is that Beatrix is just better than him. She loved him for years. She never realized that she had surpassed him because of how much she loves him. What the fuck was I about to say?
I remember what I was going to say. So
okay, you say what you're going to say. I'll remember what I was going to say. It's about Pai Mei. It's about the friendly fight that they have.
So Pai Mei sells Bill out. Hanzo sells Bill out. And then even on a much smaller level, not biological, but Beatrix goes to Bill's father figure.
Yeah, one of his many Vigeo.
So
what's his name? Esteban Vigeo.
Yeah. So there's just a trail of that. Just adds to what you were saying. There's a whole trail of these people that have taken Bill under their wing and then been like, you know what? Maybe I want a little distance from this guy.
Yeah. See, I think it's different with Esteban Vigeo though, because Esteban Vigeo shows what the heart of Bill is. I think.
That's a good point.
I think he's the truest father figure. Esteban Vigeo is a pimp who cuts women's faces to punish them. And then shows off that he has done this. He's a man. One wonders if he can even be called human at all, right? He's such a despicable figure, and he does send Beatrix on Bill's trail. But the reason that he gives is because Bill would want to see her again. Ugh, man, that's a great scene. Again, looking at reviews from the time, a lot of people don't get why that scene is in there, but I get it. It's because it's right before the confrontation with Bill, and it's the first time that you see, unfettered by any other good person, it's the first time you see the kind of person that Bill actually is. Yeah, is he takes after this guy, and he saves that revelation for right before that big fight scene, so that you know that even in this final climax, there is no ounce of reason why Beatrix should not do what the title says. Fucking kill him, right? He's the worst. He's a representative of just patriarchy, rape culture, all that stuff. It's all Bill. What else was I talking about? Oh, this is just the stupid thing about Pai Mei. Bill comes down and he's all beat up. He's like, we had a friendly competition or whatever, friendly fight. And she goes up to see Pai Mei, and there's not a fucking scratch on Pai Mei.
I never noticed that.
Pai Mei appears to be untouched. Bill has had the shit kicked out of him. Pai Mei, not a scratch. Pai Mei then goes on to fight Beatrix and show her up completely too. And it's even as much as Bill is a good fighter, Pai Mei is so far above him.
There are professional fighters that can regulate their heartbeat within 30 seconds or whatever. Mm-hmm. Pai Mei is a 1,000-year-old.
Right. Pai Mei is at a level above, but you get the feeling that we know that he ended Bill's tutelage early because he didn't teach him the 5-point palm exploding heart technique. Yeah. He lifted Beatrix up higher than Bill because he could see that Beatrix was pure of heart. Yeah. He could see that she was a good person. He could see that Bill was not a good person, so he had to get kicked out before being given that ultimate technique. Beatrix got it, which all comes to a head in that final confrontation with Bill, like you said.
I wonder, and now I'm wondering, what is it that makes Pai Mei immortal? And I wonder if Beatrix had wanted to, if she could have stayed with Pai Mei.
I wonder if there's an answer to that.
I don't know.
I don't think so. It's just mysticism.
Yeah.
It's just mystical. He's a monk.
I do need to say, as far as my obligatory nerd reference here, I really hate Bill's little soliloquy dialogue about Superman. I feel like for a dude like Tarantino that pulls so much. Here's the thing.
Okay.
For a dude like Tarantino that pulls so much from other sources to use as reference point, I find it a little bit disappointing, in my opinion, of his interpretation of Superman, because I don't feel like what he says is very accurate. But at the same time, maybe he's just a fucking super genius, and Tarantino knows what he's doing, and he's just saying that Bill has a misinterpretation of Superman.
That's what he's doing, Curtis. Because I thought, yeah, I was so excited. I was so excited to get to that. Oh man, all right, good. I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot about that bit because that is most indicative of the difference between how I watched this movie as a teenager and how I watched it now. As a teenager, I was like, yeah, Bill's a cool guy. Like, that was a cool monologue. That was an insightful thing that he said about Superman. But now I can see that Bill is making a reference to the very, like, one of the thematic cores of Kill Bill, which we've already talked about a little bit, about identity, about, like, the roles that you play, how you choose the roles you play, how you mix the roles that you play, how you don't mix them, how you keep them separate from each other. Bill is trying to make the point that Beatrix is a killer. Up until that point, we have seen Beatrix kill a lot of people, but we've also seen her do a lot of other stuff, right? We've seen Beatrix, like, bring up wells of determination from inside of her when she's buried underground. We've seen Beatrix
will her limbs back from entropy.
Right. We've seen her just stare at her,
yeah.
Wiggle your big toe. Another great scene in the pussy wagon. Can't believe we haven't said pussy wagon yet. This podcast is going to be 4 hours long. Sorry, everybody, but we're so excited about this movie. But yes, Tarantino is putting a bad idea into Bill's mouth. He's making it so that it sounds cool, right? Like, if you buy into the idea that Bill is a cool guy, then yeah, that sounds right. But if when I really started paying attention to it, it was like, no. That's undercut, because if what he's saying is true, then Beatrix is a killer, right? That if the movie is telling us that Bill is right about Superman, then it's telling us that he's also right about Beatrix. But a deeper part of the movie tells us that he's wrong about Beatrix. That credit at the end, that, like, long credit sequence where it goes through all the characters, I love it. Again, that's one of those things that unless you've sat down and watched both movies in a row, it's like, oh my god, it's such an epic. When you see characters from the very beginning of the first movie and you're, like, remembering, because he picks all their best moments to put into that credit scene. And then when it gets to Beatrix, it's been doing the AKAs for all of them. Yep. It's like Beatrix, AKA Black Mamba, AKA Mommy.
Yep.
Oh, it's beautiful. That's another part that makes me tear up, but that makes me tear up because it's like, she got a happy ending.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm surprised, but I'm almost surprised that this movie ends so nicely. Like, you just feel good. You're like, oh, it all...
It's like, yeah.
And I don't feel like there's going to be any, like, weird PTSD about any of this. It just seems fine.
No, like, right. It's like she got the revenge that she so well deserved.
And it satisfied her, you know?
Like, it's not realistic. Right, just like any other Quentin Tarantino movie, it's not meant to represent the real world, I don't think. But I think it is meant to boil down and isolate one of the things that really works about movies, which is, like, they're not real, but the feelings that you have while you watch them are real. The stuff that happens in Kill Bill is ridiculous, but the emotions that the characters feel towards each other and the emotions that you as an audience feel towards the characters are extremely real. They're all too real, to the point that, like, yeah, like I mentioned, I break down into tears when there's that shot of Uma Thurman looking at BB and you see in Uma Thurman's face, like, the realization, I have to play along right now. Yeah. This is my daughter. I have to do this. I can't kill Bill in front of my daughter, so I have to play along for now. But I also have to start thinking about how the fuck am I going to get her out of here and away from this guy.
Yeah, it's very... She's definitely learning some strange life lessons.
yeah. BB's gonna have some, like... Well, now that's... Is this a real thing, or did I just make this up? But isn't there an idea that there's, like, a Kill Bill, a secret Kill Bill Volume 3 that Quentin Tarantino has an idea for, where Vivica A. Fox's daughter goes after Beatrix's daughter?
There are a handful of movies that Quentin Tarantino has always said, like, yeah, I'd like to do that, but, like, has really... And so he has Kill Bill Volume 3. He has said that he would like to do that. He also said at one point that he would really like to do a Vega's Brother movie, and I don't think any of those are ever going to happen.
The thing that I've heard about Kill Bill Volume 3, though, and I'm remembering all this right now, or I'm making it up, like, who knows, is that Tarantino has said that he wants to wait until the actual actresses that played BB and Vivica A. Fox's daughters are old enough to star in it. Those actual women are going to be in the movie.
And I think that's a cool idea, but I almost think that they aren't going to happen and shouldn't happen, because I don't, as we've seen Quentin Tarantino kind of, you know, do these stages of films, and it's like when, this is probably a bad example because I really like Clerks 2, but like when a sequel to a movie comes out 20 years after the original, you have, you know, Blues Brothers 2000, or, you know, Clerks 2, or, you know, just any of these movies. I don't know if I want Quentin Tarantino to have to dredge up characters from his first 3 crime movies, or, you know, now that he's done his, after Death Proof, which we still fucking need to talk about. God,
I'm so excited to talk about Death Proof. That movie owns.
We have his little 3-part historical fiction thing. I don't know if it would be good to say, hey, try to step into the mindset you were in when you know, 20 years ago, and try to make another movie like that. Sometimes you just can't. And sometimes, like Quentin Tarantino, in a lot of ways, he just gets better and better and better. Right. So in some ways, it might be good to see him go back. But one of the reasons I don't like The Hateful Eight as much is that it feels like he's just trying to do his first movie with a bigger budget, in my opinion. So I feel like maybe there almost shouldn't be that long-awaited sequel, because it couldn't possibly be as good as it was the first time.
I definitely see what you're saying. Definitely.
but I really want it.
But I think if Quentin Tarantino has, I think that's probably going to be one of the running themes of these podcast episodes. Is Quentin Tarantino goes against expectations all the time. Like both in his movies, that's the case, and in the arc of his career. Like imagine being a person who was like, oh, Reservoir Dogs, very cool. Oh, Pulp Fiction, excellent. Oh, Jackie Brown, that's cool too. Kill Bill? Like, what kind of sense does that make? Yeah. That doesn't make a lick of sense. It's like, we've had a guy who's made nothing but crime movies, and he's gonna make a kung fu action movie and a western that's kind of one movie but kind of not. He filmed it all at once. What is this? Who is this guy? And Kill Bill makes a lot more sense in retrospect.
Yeah.
With the rest of his career to look back at, Kill Bill is like, yeah, of course, that's the transition moment.
Yeah.
That's where he goes from making this one thing to this other thing. So I guess what I'm getting at is, yes, it might be a bad idea, but I think if anyone could pull it off, it's Quentin Tarantino.
Tarantino's always 2 steps ahead of us.
Tarantino is always 2 steps ahead of us. Oh man, do we feel pretty much wrapped up on Kill Bill?
I think
any lingering thoughts about Kill Bill now that we've talked about it for an hour and a half?
I'm sure there are things we've missed, but I mean we're almost at the length of the movie itself.
Oh shit.
So I think we can move on, but I just think all around now that, like we've said before, we're going to try on our final episode about Tarantino's films. We're going to try to come to an agreement where we rank them.
We'll have time to wrap stuff up.
Yeah. And I said when we first started that Kill Bill was probably my favorite Tarantino film, but probably his best was Pulp Fiction. Now that we've watched these, I really enjoy Kill Bill.
I don't just enjoy Kill Bill, I respect the shit out of Kill Bill. Like in a way that maybe I don't respect Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Like I think that we'll get to all this, but I love Pulp Fiction. I've loved Pulp Fiction for a long time. Kill Bill speaks to me, in a different way than Pulp Fiction speaks to me. Pulp Fiction feels a little more technical.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction feels like a little more, I don't know. Everything Quentin Tarantino does is kind of show-offy, right? Like, hey, look what I can do. You know? Like, look what I know. But Kill Bill feels like it has a lesson about how to live a good life that Pulp Fiction does not have.
You know, maybe if you were to cherry pick these 3 films, you could make an argument that Reservoir Dogs is a good idea that holds up a weak story. Mm-hmm. Kill Bill is a fantastic story that doesn't revolve around this crazy idea.
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a very simple, tried and true revenge plot. Maybe what makes Pulp Fiction special is it's the middle ground between. It's a very strange idea that's executed very well with a story.
That's a good point. That's true.
But that's just picking out a few of his movies and just focusing on a couple.
Just final wrap up.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts about Kill Bill. Thought 1. If you are like me and you just haven't watched Kill Bill in a while and you've learned more about movies since the last time you watched Kill Bill, go watch Kill Bill. You'll be surprised about how many of the Things that you've learned since last time you watched it come into play and make you appreciate it more. He's a master of his craft. Watch Kill Bill again. It's worth it. Thing 2, go read some reviews from the time. Right? Read the New Yorker has an interesting one because that reviewer really didn't like it. A lot of people were kind of tepid. They're like, yeah, this movie's cool. I kind of see what he's doing. One person that loved it and loved it in a way that makes it clear he knew even then exactly what Tarantino was up to and probably what the rest of his career would look like was Roger Ebert.
Really?
National treasure. Fucking historical. He's a monumental individual. He's one of the best critics of film, especially one of the best popular critics of film ever to live. He loved both volumes of Kill Bill. And when you read like the way he gushes about them, he clearly thought even just volume 1, even when volume 1 was all he had seen or like all he could write about, he had nothing but good things to say about it.
That's nice.
It's really cool. It's a really cool review. It's the best. I read a lot of reviews from the time. Roger Ebert's is hands down the best review of Kill Bill that I read. Both volumes.
I don't do enough research. Apparently.
I love this stuff. I mean, I wasn't expecting to do that much research about Kill Bill. I just watched it and loved it, front to back, and I wanted to see what other people had said about it. I wanted to see what the state of the conversation was. Do you have any wrap-up thoughts about Kill Bill before we get into Death Proof?
I guess, I don't know, this might be a little bit wedged in, but the only thing that I can think about, and I like I said before, I don't know why you'd be listening to this if you haven't seen Kill Bill, but
you live an interesting life if that's the case.
You just love Ben and I so much.
You love us both, and you have a lot of dishes to do.
That joke works because I listen to podcasts while doing the dishes.
As do I.
When I was younger, I had shown this movie to people here and there or told people that you should watch this, and I have heard a few people say that a lot of the things in this movie, I would say I recommend this movie because it's a strong female character, and I know that now that I've made the mistake of assuming that a strong female character should be enough to make a woman like a movie.
We've all been there, Curtis.
I have shown this or told some people about this film, and I've heard people say I do not like this movie. And the reason being basically is that there's a lot of heavy stuff in the movie regarding gender and assault.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt your final thoughts, but
please, no, you can.
One thing that I wish had been done differently is that Uma Thurman is sexually assaulted multiple times while she's in a coma.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. I don't think that needed to be done that way. I don't think it adds anything to the movie.
Right. I think that her drive for getting her revenge is warranted enough without having to have been assaulted countless times.
How many $75 collections did Buck take? Who knows how many truckers rolled through that hospital room? It's really upsetting to think about, and I don't think that it's upsetting in a way that adds to the movie. I don't think it doesn't take that much away from the movie, but just by its nature of being about that subject matter, about rape, and not adding anything. If you're gonna put something like that in your movie, it needs to justify its presence. I don't think it does in this case.
I think so. I guess my final thought was I would completely understand if a person was turned off from this movie because of the sexual assault themes, because of the
There's a lot of violence
shooting
against
a pregnant woman,
a lot of
any of those
rough
things.
stuff.
You know, killing a woman in front of her child.
Right.
For Anita Green there. But if I could make a recommendation, is that this movie is very, very good. And I would recommend that as long as if you feel that way about this movie, unless it's going to be like traumatic for you to watch that, I would recommend to try to watch it again. You know, do like Ben did, watch them back to back, and just to really appreciate the performance that Uma Thurman gives. And I just think that it's such a powerful performance, and she plays the character so well that I understand. I'm kind of rambling now, but I understand if people's concerns with this movie, but I think that it warrants a view of like the double feature and trying to at least see what comes of that stuff, because all that stuff is kind of weighted in the beginning, which makes it kind of hard.
Makes it hard to get through.
It's hard to sit and watch a lot of that.
Yeah, I think trigger warnings are important.
Yeah.
I think Kill Bill should come with a big old trigger warning in front of it. But I think that there's a difference between a piece of media that is triggering that doesn't offer anything in return for those triggers, and Kill Bill, which like you said, and I want to stress that Uma Thurman's performance is crazy good. Like the amount of emotional depth that she gives that character with very few lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
Like Beatrix does not say very much in this movie. Other characters kind of talk at her and about her.
Yeah.
But the amount of emotional weight that she imbues the performance in just by the way her face looks, the way she moves, it's amazing. Also, are you familiar with the concept of the male gaze?
No.
Right? This idea that in media, women are kind of shot from a default position of sexual objectification because the assumed viewer of a film is male. So people, and it's even unconscious or subconscious that a director will do this. They'll frame women in a way that will appeal to men. The male gaze. It's this idea that all media, even books and shit, like comic books, those like perfectly framed shots of women's asses in comics. That's the male gaze at work.
Okay.
It's just the default thing. Quentin Tarantino does, I will say this for most of his movies, maybe not Death Proof, but that's a whole other thing. Especially Kill Bill, there's not a single ounce of the male gaze in Kill Bill. All the women are shot as like, I don't want to get out of my element here. I don't want to get out of my depth here. I can feel myself getting out of my depth.
That was what I was starting to feel like with my final thoughts. I was like, I don't want to make any leaps here that I can't back up.
How can I pull this back? I feel like Quentin Tarantino avoids the male gaze. I'll leave it at that. For people to agree with or disagree with, I feel like Quentin Tarantino is one of our best directors, partially because of that reason. Yeah. And I guess it makes sense, like the thing I said before. He's in complete control of every association that he wants you to have while watching the movie. Yeah. If he wants you to be like, to feel kind of sexually aroused or like sexually charged, or if he wants to imbue a scene with an erotic sensibility, he does it at an appropriate time.
Yeah.
But if it's not appropriate to the scene, he avoids it. He shoots people in very respectful and humane ways.
Probably also worth noting in a similar vein is that although this is a Quentin Tarantino movie, it is stressed, I think, a couple times throughout the credits that the character of Beatrix was... Uma Thurman is given just as much credit for creating the character.
It says, based on the character of the bride created by Q and U.
Yeah.
Right.
So
they did that on the set of Pulp Fiction.
You don't have... it. Who knows what level each person contributed, but at least on some level, this isn't a man writing a woman's character.
I think that's an important point.
There's a lot of female... what am I...
Certainly,
lost it.
Shut it down. Certainly, the genesis of the idea is sexually balanced.
And there's female input into this character, which obviously is a female character. is only going to add to the credibility of the character.
And input by the person who was playing the character.
Yeah.
Which, interesting bit of trivia. Apparently, they created the character idea on the set of Pulp Fiction. And years later, Quentin Tarantino offered Uma Thurman the role on her birthday.
Oh.
It wasn't assumed that, like, all right, you're going to make this movie and I'm going to star as this character that I helped create. I don't think she had that idea in her head of that being a sure thing, and it came around. Her birthday came up, and Tarantino said, like, look, we're gonna make this movie. We're gonna make this crazy 4-hour epic.
You want to make a lot of money?
Yeah. You want to get rich? Come on, Uma, be somebody.
Okay. You want to talk about Death Proof for like 5 minutes?
Hell yeah, I do. Well, what's our time right now?
2 hours.
Oh God.
Sorry.
Death Proof rules.
Yes, it does.
Death Proof was way better than I remembered it being.
So you enjoyed it a lot.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. Megan loved it too. We watched it together. I think we were both kind of skeptical at the beginning and kind of remained a little skeptical through the first 40 minutes, like the really grindhousey part of it.
Yeah.
But after that first 40 minutes, it just kind of turns into another Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yep.
Right, with like elements of grindhouse to it, but the film errors go away partway through the movie. Like once it transitions to the second group of main characters,
yeah,
the film gets cleaned up. The dialogue is just different. It's Kurt Russell's character is handled completely differently. Yeah. In the second part of the movie, he no longer has like an air of charming menace about him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, you definitely know going into the second half that what the plan is. There's no. His character is written really well where he is that character of like, this is probably a bad idea to go with him, but he seems all right.
He's a horror movie character.
Yeah, and I think I had the option, I had the ability. I was really lucky for one. I was able to find the time to watch all of Grindhouse with Planet Terror before it. And also, lucky enough, somehow I roped my fiance into watching both of those movies with me, which, if you knew her, is just like so not some shit she would want to watch. She would rather watch probably anything else before a double Grindhouse feature. But I think I mentioned this on the last episode when I talked about the fact that I'd watched Grindhouse, was that I feel like the director's cut of Grindhouse, of Death Proof, is more important than watching the Grindhouse double feature.
Now, what's different about the director's cut? Because I'm not sure which one I saw.
So the director's cut just has some scenes that not having them doesn't really take anything from the movie, but it just rounds out characters a little bit. There's a scene where the second group of girls go to a gas station and they're talking about a magazine that like an Italian
Vogue.
So you saw the director's cut.
Okay, that's the director's cut. All right. Yeah, I love that. That's not in the original.
No, that's not. In the part where you get, I think in the theatrical cut you get a little bit of like Kurt Russell like pulling up and taking the picture of them, but the whole him licking their feet. Oh, that's not in the that's only in the director's cut.
Wow.
So that was one thing. Two of the big things that I think affect this movie in a way that make it not one of his best films is that without that additional building on the characters, you don't have the same like. He's a bad guy because he's killed these people, so it's not necessary to show him being a super creep, but it definitely adds to his despicableness. And the other thing is that I think the other thing that kind of holds this movie back, and maybe, is that it's really cool and unexpected to see your whole group of main characters get murdered. Yeah. Without knowing it's going to happen.
It's a brutal murder, too.
Yeah, it is.
Like the way
flying leg.
Shot, the flying leg, the girl in the back who like the tire just grinds her face off,
melts her face off.
Yeah.
So like that's really cool. So I don't know that this is probably the most accurate way to say this, but it's hard to get to know these characters unexpectedly watch them get murdered and then just say, oh, hey, we replaced it with these four, and now these are the four main characters, and you have to get to know and like them. Mm-hmm. And luckily, I don't know if this was intentional, I assume it was, I find the second group much more likable.
They're more realistic.
Yeah.
They don't feel like characters in a horror movie.
I think that's a big... And that also is a good... In addition to the kind of the grindhouse, quote-unquote, cheesy stuff fading out in the second half, those more stock characters are faded out by the second half, too. Jungle Julia is just kind of... I don't feel really attached to any of the characters. Jungle Julia is kind of mean. What's the girl with the black hair that does the lap dance?
Cannot remember her name.
She is kind of trashy, and it doesn't really work for me, you know. And then the blonde girl is just annoying. That little thing where she's like drumming in the back of the car makes me just want to stab myself. Like, I don't even know why. And then I can't even remember the other one.
Is there another one?
There's four of them.
Oh god.
So, but they're just kind of more forgettable. And then when you get the other four characters, you get, I mean, Zoe Bell's
incredible,
amazing, and Rosario Dawson,
mm-hmm.
who gives a great performance in that. She's funny and likable.
Alina or whatever her name is.
Yeah, it's Lee, I think.
Lee, who gets left with the...
Yeah, I can't remember her name. She has a hyphenated last name. I remember that weirdly enough. She's great. She's funny and kind of... She's... What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of spacey, you know?
Kind of spacey, but it often feels like an affectation that she does on purpose to be funny. Yeah. And I don't know. I know people like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can think that for that to me is the sign of a good character, is when I can see elements of people that I know in them, and like complex elements.
I like too that the way she is portrayed, it's almost like a plot hole, maybe, I guess, if you want to call it that, but you don't question it when she gets left behind for the final act. You're like, whoa,
never returned to.
Why is that? And then the car is all smashed, and it's like this girl's just stuck with this hillbilly guy.
Yeah, right.
You don't even think about it until like the fourth time you've watched the movie. But I think the second characters are great and fantastic, but it's weird to have to get acclimated to a new group of four women after you had a group of four women that were similar, I think.
So for me, the reason behind that, the kind of dramatic reason that justifies that choice, is that if you look at the first, what is it? It's like 40 to 50 minutes of the movie is with this first group of characters. That's an origin story for Stuntman Mike.
Yeah.
He's kind of the main point of that whole section, is to set him up as a certain type of character and then just knock him down, tear him down completely, tear down the whole myth. If you ever thought that he was an interesting or cool character in the first part of the movie, then seeing what he does in the second part completely undercuts that.
Especially to see how much of a persona it is,
right,
when as soon as this big, scary, threatening force gets hurt, it's all out the window.
He's hanging out of the car screaming.
A screaming, crying mess.
Yeah.
You know, and which is especially funny because in any action movie or, especially in grindhouse movies, everybody gets shot. A flesh wound means nothing in an action movie.
You wrap it, you rip a piece of your shirt off, wrap it up, and you're good to go. So
for him to just get like clipped in the arm and instantly go off the road screaming and crying, and then, God, similar... Tarantino, just as well as he gives, Tarantino has these tropes in his films, and one of the tropes that I've mentioned 1,000 times is tension. The other one is he just has a way of giving you that satisfying, your little revenge bits, and in Kill Bill, it's when Uma Thurman steps on Elle's eyeball and just leaves her in the camper with a black mama blind. You're like,
oh God, I forgot the snake is still in there. Because the snake hisses at Beatrice. We were talking about fucking Kill Bill again. Oh god, we're trapped in the black hole.
But
the snake like is scared of her.
It respects her.
It respects her.
Sees her as a black mamba.
Right. It's like you're the same as me, but better.
Yeah.
Because you have this extra element. You have this element of humanity. You're not just a killing machine. You're something else.
Damn.
God damn, that's a good movie.
But that satisfying moment in Death Proof is, first of all, just that she shoots him is incredible, and then when they hit the arm with the metal pipe, you're just like, oh, like, yes,
he earned
like
that with everything that he done.
Oh, you deserve this.
Yeah.
Like,
I come at it from a similar angle as you, but like my trope that I keep going back to is this idea of shifting power dynamics. Right, I think that a lot of Tarantino's stuff is about that. I think a lot of really great theater is about that as well.
Maybe for our wrap up, that should be one of our segments. Is our top 4 Tarantino tropes.
Right, like what are the things that really characterize what a Tarantino movie is? In the 90s, people would have said like, well, it's about crime. People swear a lot of people get killed. But now it's like it's a little more complex. Now we have a better idea of what his career actually looks like. But that shifting of power dynamics, you have an expectation of how that's going to go based on what grindhouse movies are often like. And the moment when they decide to chase him down in that fucking Vanishing Point car and brutalize him is like, wow. So A, the power dynamic has changed. B, I'm not sure I knew what it was at the start either. Like, how bad was this? Yeah. Like, they go above and beyond the Call of Duty for like they get their revenge. They get their bloody revenge. She like steps on his face at the end. She crushes his skull.
She raises her leg and then holds it up. And then lets it drop on his face.
You see it too. Like you see her boot go into his face, not up close but far away, and you can tell what's happening. So man, Death Proof. That it's like a grindhouse movie in that it's a lot of slow stuff. That builds up to that like all-time great car chase at the end.
So with me, I have to give an obligatory plug to the Psychotronic Film Society. Is a podcast that I like a lot because they recently did an episode about the entirety of Grindhouse, and I liked Death Proof and Planet Terror before, but I learned so much more about it from listening to this podcast. So all of this coming knowledge is from them. I'm not super smart about Grindhouse films. Just want to get that out of the way. Each movie that is this part of Grindhouse, I didn't know enough tropes about Grindhouse films to notice that they were doing these, tributes in these movies. For instance, Robert Rodriguez chose the path of, we need to put, these movies would have a small budget and they would find a bigger actor and have them be just in the movie enough to be able to say starring so-and-so, and then they would bring that person in, film all their stuff in one day because they were barely in the movie. And that's what Robert Rodriguez did. I never noticed this, that most of the scenes with Bruce Willis he's the only person in the shot. So they really drove home that like, that's like the inside joke is that they filmed all this afterward and cut Bruce Willis's parts into it. So, and then, but with Death Proof, and it's funny because it plays so well to a Tarantino movie anyway. They're like, all right, we have this for a budget. It's all going to be in this car chase. So the rest of this movie is just going to be talking. Which just, I never noticed because...
Hey, do we know anybody who owns a bar?
Because it plays so well into Tarantino's repertoire that it just, you don't even question it. You're like, there's a lot of talking. Well, it's a Tarantino movie. And then after, you're like, oh, well, that's also a Grindhouse trope, is to, have an hour and a half of dialogue and then all your money gets blown on one car chase.
And the cool thing about it is that, well, like, the dialogue is good. Right? In Death Proof. I never felt like beaten down by the amount of dialogue. I always felt like I was learning new things about the characters. And then the car chase is fucking sick.
It's so sick.
So like all parts of this movie are just pushing on all cylinders.
I think I have my one... I can't even tell you what it is off the top of my head, but I do have one or two moments in Grindhouse or in Death Proof where I get removed from my viewing experience and I'm reminded that I'm watching a Tarantino movie. There's some dialogue that's like, can we fucking go, please? Like,
yeah, okay, I do feel that as well.
But overall, I think that the dialogue is fantastic, and it only builds up to that fantastic car chase, which, for worth mentioning, Zoe Bell was not really an actor. She was a stunt woman. That's a real for Uma Thurman. I didn't know that until I watched Kill Bill the other day. Yeah. I didn't know that. So that is really her on top of that car, and they
fucking crazy.
They really did that stunt, and that was Tarantino's way to pay tribute to movies of old, was to make a movie about movies of old and then really do a crazy car chase with
zero CGI.
A girl strapped to the hood.
I'm pretty sure it's zero CGI.
Yeah, I believe it's all practical.
Yeah.
Except for the girl's leg getting ripped off. No, the final car chase is all practical.
Right. Man. Yep. It's watching that scene and knowing that happened. Like, they filmed that. That wasn't fakey fake bullshit.
Yeah.
They filmed that happening. They filmed that car going that fast with Zoe Bell on the hood playing Ship's Mast.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I didn't know this until years later, but I was very happy that when I watched it with my fiance that I told her, like, just so you know, like, this blonde character, she is actually a stunt woman and all the stunts that she does are real and she actually did them. And I think it gave Laura a much deeper appreciation for the movies that we were watching.
Yeah.
She ended up liking both of them a lot more than she was a good sport about it. But she did end up liking them a lot more than she thought she was going to.
Yeah.
So
Death Proof, I can't speak to Planet Terror. I've seen Planet Terror one time, but
it's okay.
Yeah, I'm probably never watched Planet Terror again.
Yeah.
Like, Quentin Tarantino, I know
I think you owe yourself one viewing of Grindhouse. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I put in my time.
Yeah.
Death Proof is a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're skeptical, like, that's the way it was with my wife Megan. Have you heard my wife? My wife's name is Megan. Have you heard? Have I told you this already? Audience out there in the radius. She was skeptical. I probably fucking mentioned this 20 minutes ago, but by the end, she was into it. Yeah. There's something about a car chase, especially a car chase that's good. That is that good, I should say.
Yep.
And like the moment when there's no music through the whole thing until they go off that ramp.
Yeah.
And the music cuts in at the moment the cars go off the ramp. You just get this great like car chase music that comes on. It's like the end of the car chase and you get music for the last little bit of it. Other things about Death Proof that I like. There are two separate moments where Kurt Russell looks directly into the camera.
Yeah.
I crack up when I see that. I love it.
I think there's a lot of playfulness in that movie where it's a fun movie that Tarantino did as a project with Robert Rodriguez, and that's why it doesn't quite fit into the paradigm that we've kind of put these movies into, where it's like, part 1, part 2, part 3. It only fits in this part 2 episode in the sense that if Kill Bill is a movie that the people in his movies would watch, then Death Proof could be that as well.
Well, and I don't know if I mentioned this on air already, but I think I mentioned it to you. Those are, I think, the only two movies that start with our feature presentation thing.
Yeah. I don't know. They definitely both do, but I don't know if other ones do.
I don't believe Jackie Brown does.
No, I think I would have noticed it.
And I'm pretty sure, like, Inglourious Bastards, Hateful Eight, those movies don't start with it. I might sound like a fucking stupid asshole right now because they all do or whatever.
all 8 of them
It's
do.
like, oh, you remember all the 50 times you've watched Pulp Fiction in your life? It started with that every time.
Have you ever listened to Danger Doom?
Yeah.
There's that song with Talib Kweli where it's that little intro feature presentation thing.
That's cool.
That's the beat.
I like it.
But we definitely don't have time to talk about that.
We don't have time to talk about anything else. Any last words about Death Proof?
No, I feel on one hand, I feel like it's a shame to undersell Death Proof so much compared to Kill Bill, but it's not even the same realm.
It's not as like complex or complete a piece of work.
But it's really good.
It's still great. It's still probably one of my top 5 favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But
we sure will.
Death Proof is worth watching. Kill Bill is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other... The only other thing that I thought was some cool trivia, which I may have mentioned on a previous episode, is the jukebox in the bar. Do you know the little trivia thing?
I think
about
you told this to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you mentioned it on the episode.
If I hadn't mentioned it on the episode, the jukebox in the bar in Death Proof is Quentin Tarantino's personal jukebox, which he had flown in. So the whole movie is scored with records that Tarantino already owned in his personal record collection.
That's really cool.
Which is just another level of love, I feel, that Tarantino put into this movie. If it might not be his best movie, I would probably argue that it's still in the top 5 of his best movies. But if you are a fan of Tarantino, you should at least watch this from the eyes of appreciating how much Tarantino appreciates film, rather than the quality of the movie he made, I think would be my final thought on that. But it is really good, so you have 2 reasons
really
to
fucking
watch
good.
it.
Also, this will be the 3rd or 4th time I've said this. It's one of the best car chases ever put to film. Yep. Like if you like movies with car chases, sit through Death Proof. Yeah. Watch the whole thing. Don't just skip to the end, because that's what you have to do. You watch the whole thing. You wait for that final moment, and the build up makes it so much better. The car chase is incredible. It's like Mad Max Fury Road level good. Car chase. The physicality of it, the consistency of it. Both cars get beat up over the course of the car chase, which must have been so hard to do. Must have been so hard to film. Like we both made movies in the past, right?
Yeah.
And it's trying to maintain that consistency between shots when sometimes you're shooting shit out of order. Oh shit, we have to reshoot that pit because the fucking film got eaten or whatever. So we've got to. It must have been so hard to shoot that.
I think
maybe I'm wrong.
I think I watched commentary, and I almost want to say they had 2.
They must have,
but I don't know. Also a thing I noticed that I didn't notice that was pointed out to me in the Psychotronic Film Society podcast. Both Death Proof cars are different cars.
Yeah, I didn't. The skull isn't on the second one.
Oh, I thought the paint was the same, but so I guess I was mistaken.
And it's well, the first bit is in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And then Earl McGraw, same guy who's in Kill Bill, right?
Yep.
Michael Michael Parks, who also played Esteban Viejo.
Yeah.
Weird. I'm not sure how I feel about the accent that he's doing there, knowing that that's not his real accent. Maybe a little offensive. But hey, it's the magic.
It's a little too on the head.
It's the magic of movies, you know.
Old-timey racism.
Yeah, Michael Parks plays Sheriff Earl McGraw in both of those movies.
Yeah.
And his son
number 1. Isn't he also in Natural Born Killers?
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Tarantino wrote it, but I think Oliver Stone directed it.
Oliver Stone did direct it. Tarantino did write it. I don't know if Michael Parks is in it.
I believe he is. It's okay.
It might be.
You don't really need to.
All right, it's not essential.
It's one of those movies you watch when you don't have more Tarantino movies to watch.
Oh,
You're
God.
like, it's like when you watch Weeds in between seasons of Breaking Bad.
This will be fine.
Yeah, those will get me there.
Yeah. Oh God. I don't even know where I was going with that.
Okay.
That was just trivia about fucking Michael Parks. Are we done?
We're done. We're almost at 2.5 hours.
Okay, let me apologize real quick. I implied in the last episode that
each one is astoundingly longer than the one before it.
I implied in the last episode that that only white people watch Quentin Tarantino movies.
Oh, you know what?
That was a stupid thing to say. I shouldn't have said it.
So
it's definitely not true.
Well, maybe I'm insensitive, but
okay.
because I offered the full disclosure here. You said you had said something that was a little bit fucked up, and I was like, I'll just edit it out. And you were like, no, I need to own it. I fucking said it. And I was like, all right. And then, but I went back to listen to it, and maybe I'm just insensitive, but I didn't think it was as bad as you had thought it was.
I listened to it also. My wife was listening to it. I got to wake up to that one morning.
Your own voice?
Yeah, my own voice. And I was like, oh shit, I'm about to say that thing, right? And I did kind of apologize for it immediately, but I didn't apologize for it with the amount of detail that I would like to apologize for it. Because saying like, oh, it's not really true, but maybe it's a little true, but not really true. It's not true. All kinds of people watch Quentin Tarantino movies. All kinds of people love Quentin Tarantino movies. There's not something special about white people that makes them watch Quentin Tarantino movies more. He's just a national treasure. He's a great director, and he deserves to be watched by everybody. Also, while I'm apologizing, I'm going to apologize for something earlier in this episode. If I got anything wrong about Japanese society and their hang-ups or lack thereof about fucking young children, I realize I could have phrased that in a less confrontational way, but I have read a little bit about this. It is a documented difference between the cultures. This
is not anecdotal evidence.
This is not anecdotal. This is based on a cool article that I read once about actual differences in media. And it's just like American media has issues, right? Yeah. American media has issues with women, like a lot of issues with women. I think it's fair to point out the issues in the media of other cultures, especially when we're discussing something that so directly draws from that media. So I guess that wasn't really an apology. It was a justification. Come at me.
I feel like I'm so dumb that I probably say all kinds of fucked up stuff and it just fucking goes over my own head. So I don't know if I said anything dumb.
If either of us said anything dumb that we haven't acknowledged, or racist that we haven't acknowledged, or sexist that we haven't acknowledged, please point it out to us. Yeah. I feel like we're both pretty open and acknowledging about that kind of thing. Yeah. I think we both look at it as an opportunity to improve. I know I certainly look at it as an opportunity to improve myself and not an attack. So
for sure,
please tell me if I said anything dumb. With all that said,
yeah,
thank you for sticking around.
Yeah, for this whole thing. Hopefully you didn't have to listen to it in like 3 different parts.
Oh God, what are we gonna do with the next episode? That's gonna be 3 whole movies.
We have to try to rein it in. We have to.
None of those movies is going to be as good as Kill Bill, I don't think.
That's true. That's a good point.
Maybe Hateful Eight.
Maybe Django Unchained. Oh, fuck.
Next episode, 4 hours long. Yeah, we're sorry.
My trash can over. Yeah, so in our next episode, we're going to be going right back into Tarantino films for his third phase of films, which is his historical fiction of the universe that he has created.
Yeah.
So Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, and The Hateful Eight will be the 3 films we focus on next time. Maybe we'll have a guest. I
would like us to have a guest.
I know.
Cool with
Get ready, everybody. In a couple episodes from now, we have a real-life woman that's going to be on the show.
Oh, man. She's all lined up and everything. We're very excited about the perspective. She'll be able to point out to us in real time when we say some sexist shit.
I hope she listens to the old stuff to correct us, and then is right there to hit us with a ruler.
Leah, if you're listening to this right now, I'm sorry I just made it sound like you are a nag, or I'm sorry I just made it sound like you are some kind of social justice warrior who all you do all the time is like sit on top of the board that I'm punching and hit me with a cane when I say stupid shit. I'm sorry that I made it sound like that. That's not what you're like.
We're excited to have you on our show.
We're very excited to have you on our show. We're excited for that episode. That's going to be another pretty long one, I think.
That's not the next episode, but that's the one after that. We might have a guest for the next one. We've had someone express interest. I haven't reached out to make it happen or not.
Yeah.
But... so if you think my voice is cool, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CurtCake5K. Also on Spotify with that playlist that I actually ended up making.
Yeah.
And then probably on the Black Gold YouTube channel where I'll be making some videos in the near future with Ben.
Yeah.
Without Ben. With other people. With Ben. With other people and Ben. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do any of it. There's a lot of talk here. You still don't have Instagram, do you?
No, I don't have Instagram. I don't have fucking anything.
That's fine.
I have Facebook. Find me on Facebook. I'm toying with the idea of doing some videos about video games.
Yeah.
You know, I bought myself a microphone.
Oh, there you go.
That's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a blue. We're talking on blue mic stands right now. I don't know if these are blue mics.
Yeah, no, these aren't blue mics. I don't know if
these actually Sennheiser.
I don't know if I have it. But the first mic I ever had for a podcast was a blue microphone. It was the Snowball, and it was actually omnidirectional mic. So these are unidirectional. I don't know how much you know about mics.
Interesting. Well, keep talking.
Oh,
but
so the mics we have are typical. I bought them so I could use them for podcasts or on stage. So they're your typical black microphone where you speak into one part of it. This the first mic we had for a podcast was an omnidirectional, which means it was just a ball that sat on a stand and it was in the middle of a table and everybody talked at it and it picked it up from all sides.
Yeah,
sounded like shit, but I got the job done.
Hey, it did the work.
Yeah.
That you needed it to do. The mic that I got is the Blue Yeti, which you can actually switch the recording pattern.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
can change it. You've got like the unidirectional. You've got an omnidirectional on there. I think you have a cardioid or whatever. There are 4 different patterns that you can use. It's very cool. I'm gonna use it to say some shit about video games that I like.
You know what? Actually, I'm thinking now. Ooh, I gotta check if I have a third mic for a guest, and we may need to use
the one that I have.
Or
mine,
if I have my
a,
snowball. Either way,
mine is a USB. Could we record on a?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that'll work.
I'll bring it over.
Yep.
Cool. When we have a guest.
We'll test that out before the guest comes, so it's not...
Good idea.
Man, I've had some guests come over, and I was not prepared, and I didn't have... I bought, like, a new laptop. This is fucking stupid, sorry. We were 2.5 hours in.
Goodbye, we love you all. If you don't want to keep listening, don't keep listening. This is Inside Baseball. We should probably just stop recording and talk about this.
Yeah, I bought a brand new laptop because my laptop shit the bed, and I bought it, like, hurriedly because I had a couple guests coming to be on my podcast that I was really excited about. Shout out to Renee and Sebastian. And then they like came to my house and I had all this like gear and stuff and I was like, I don't really know how to use it. Sorry.
You guys help me with this?
I had to order a part. So you guys want to come back next week? And they were totally cool about it. But anyway. So yeah, that's where you can follow me. Ben's not into that stuff yet.
I'm not on the world. I don't know. I probably won't get Instagram. Like I said, I've got a website brewing.
Yeah. So
once I get some shit going, it'll all be on my Facebook. Just find me on Facebook. You know me.
You're my personal friend in real life.
You're probably my personal friend.
So I think I'm gonna at least start. I'm gonna do a video about my vinyl collection pretty soon here, and then I was thinking, we could talk about Ben's vinyl, and because you have some cool. You and your wife collectively collect vinyl, and you guys have some cool stuff.
We have some cool pieces. I would definitely bring some of my favos in.
Yeah, I was spitballing ideas while I was on my lunch break the other day, and I was like, I just have some friends that collect cool things. I have a friend who has no less than 32 record crates full. Man. And he's been collecting his whole life.
That's excessive.
He didn't just get into it. And I also have a good friend. That's not really a good friend. I don't know why I said that. He's a guy I know that came on one of my old podcasts. He collects VHS tapes. And he has like 600. So I might just take Guerrilla Style iPhone. Just interview some people about their cool stuff. We'll see. Probably not.
It'll never happen. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
We'll be lucky if we get to the next episode of Ben and Curt Till It Hurts. So...
This has been Ben and Curt Till It Hurts. I hope it didn't hurt, but I understand if it did. Like, this is a really long episode. My butt literally hurts right now, so I guess oh god, it's come true. This has been Ben and Curt Till It Hurts. I'm Ben.
And I'm Curt.
And we love you all. Goodbye.